She's teaching me how to do the crowdfunding in depth, deep, and she's a pro at it. So later on, I'm gonna throw a curveball at her and just have her say a few things.
Cool.
But you guys want to listen to the stuff. Are you ready? Pat Mauer.
All right, thank you, Mike. We got a couple other people. I'll wait for them to get seated. What I'm going to speak just for a little bit today are retirement accounts, and not just any old retirement account, but a specialized way that you can invest your IRA into different things. A lot of people have IRAs. They have 401ks, 403bs, thrift savings plans, a lot of different types of retirement vehicles. But most people kind of have one track. They think that has to be invested in stocks, has to be invested in mutual funds, CDs, money markets, and those are kind of the options you have. Within a mutual fund, there's just tons of different types of mutual funds. But at the end of the day, that's still the type of asset that it is. What I want to talk about today is using your IRA to invest in what we consider alternate assets, and namely real estate. That's what a lot of you are here obviously to learn about, and how an IRA interplays with real estate. My name is Scott Bauer. I'm the Education and Marketing Director for Advanced IRA Services. We're actually just down the road on Ulmerton and Starkey, and we specialize in administering self-directed retirement accounts and helping individuals take IRA funds and invest in different things. And we'll go over a lot of what those different things are in just a moment. I'm also a member of the Florida Bar, so a licensed attorney. I don't practice law for Advanta, though. I can't give legal advice when it comes, can't prepare legal documents, do things like that for our clients. And one thing we don't do at Advanta is we do not give legal, tax, or investment advice. If you came to us and said, I would like to do a particular deal, is this a good or bad idea? We're not going to tell you yay or nay on that. It's really up to you, up to the other people that you rely on, maybe some others in this club, Mike, to decide whether or not you want to take this IRA funds, put it in this particular property, make this particular loan. That's up to you to make that determination. So in one sense, if you make a really great decision and make a lot of money within your IRA, that's complete credit to you. We had nothing to do with it. If you, on the alternative, investment doesn't go so well, we're not really to blame, because again, we're not going to do the due diligence on that. Now again, you should really speak with accountants, attorneys, if you do get into a situation where you have some doubts as to the legality of what you're doing, and we'll talk about a little bit about that today. If it gets into a gray area of IRS law, we can't tell, we're not going to make a determination. So it's a lot of times an attorney can give you some advice, and also an accountant if you're looking at making different investments. You're looking at taking out distributions, how this is going to play out tax-wise for you. An accountant can really give you the complete rundown of that. Again, we'll touch on a couple things that are definitely tax-related, but we're not going to actually, I can't tell you if you make if you put a contribution into your IRA, how much tax you're going to save, etc. necessarily. That's more of a personal question. Now, why haven't a lot of people heard about self-directed IRAs? Very simple. Most people have their accounts with an investment broker or a bank that offers you limited investment products. If you go to Charles Schwab, they might have a self-directed IRA that you can pick from a variety of mutual funds, pick from a variety of stocks, etc. But IRS regulations actually allow for you to invest in a much wider variety of assets. Some of the possible investments you can make in your IRA, and a lot of people, again, don't even realize this is possible. Raw land, rental properties, rehabs, commercial property. You can then take your IRA, invest in those types of entities, the gains you're going to make with on those properties, whether it's rental income, whether it's part of a pool account and you're selling property, you're rehabbing quick, making quick profits. That money is all coming back into your IRA tax-free. And that's really one of the biggest benefits of investing in real estate with an IRA account, is if you are making substantial gains, you can do this on a tax-deferred or tax-free basis, putting that money away. If you don't need it now, put it away that it's there for retirement. So different way to grow the retirement account. In addition to kind of buying the hard asset, your IRA actually owning a piece of property, you can invest in mortgage loans, unsecured notes. So my IRA could lend to one of you. You said I'll pay you 10%, kind of a hard money loan. I'll do that in my IRA. You pay me back 10%, whatever we agree on. That's the gain back into my account. Options and assignments, tax liens. Kind of if you're just starting out, you don't have a lot of money to work with. Those are a couple other different things you could do within your IRA. Get a property under contract. Assign it to a third party. Take back an assignment fee in your IRA. Do that through a Roth IRA. Put $5,000 of a yearly contribution into a Roth IRA. Get a property under contract. I turn around and assign that for $15,000. That's $10,000 of gain tax-free in your Roth IRA. So it's really kind of different things you can do that are very powerful. And kind of one other bigger category, I'm sure Mike will touch on this as well, what he does later. LLCs, partnerships. It's possible for multiple people to take their IRA accounts, combine them into one LLC that's going to buy a project, going to buy a property, and share in the income and expenses as related to your overall ownership percentage within that LLC or that LLP. A couple other things, precious metals, foreign currency. We're not going to talk about those really today. But there's really just a lot of different things you can do in your IRA. How many people realize that you can buy real estate in your IRA? Now, some of you already know that because you've seen me before. But a lot of people don't even realize this is possible. Most of the people that are driving by on Overton Road right now have no idea that you can do that in their IRA. They're happy, they're not happy, but they're getting 1%, 2% right now in their IRA and figure, that's what I get. And not realizing if I took control, take the money out of that type of account, put it into another vehicle, I can invest how I wish. Obviously, you all are here today to learn more about investing in real estate. You think that that's obviously, if you didn't think it was a good idea, you probably wouldn't be here, or at least you're intrigued by the idea and see some potential. That's what we allow individuals to do with using their retirement funds, is to make similar types of gains and grow your retirement that way. Now, the types of accounts that can be self-directed, any type of IRA, whether it's a traditional or Roth IRA, a SEP, a simple. We offer qualified individual 401k accounts, educations, health savings accounts. Now, the two at the top, the traditional and the Roth, are the most common types of IRAs that we see. Individuals taking money, putting $5,000 a year into a traditional or Roth IRA, and in turn doing that each year, growing the account through their investments, building towards retirement. The big difference between a traditional and Roth is the tax treatment. If I make a contribution today, I put $5,000 into a traditional IRA to get it going, I'll get a tax deduction. So my taxes for this year, we go, okay, good, I got some money back on my, or I saved some on taxes because I made a contribution. That money, though, is going to be taxed to you later in life. So you have the ability to take that money, compound it over time. When you withdraw it later, it is taxed. The benefit of a Roth IRA is you just put the money in that account, you don't get a tax deduction. You can forego that, you put $5,000 in, and that's going to grow tax-free the rest of your life. So I put $5,000 in today, $5,000 in next year. I continue to invest and reinvest and make money, options, assignments, partnering with individuals, buying property. That account grows to $100,000, $200,000 by the time I'm 60, 65, and I'm ready to start drawing down on it. Not a dime of tax goes back to the government. And that is really what's very, very powerful about the Roth IRA account. If anyone has an employer's plan currently, if you have an old 401k, an old 403b type plan, you're involved with an employer, you can take that money and roll it into a traditional IRA and not pay any taxes for moving that money over. I mean, it's going to eventually be taxed, but that's kind of how it's handling that. I mean, if it's sitting in an old 401k, you're eventually going to pay tax on it. The question is, how can I get that money to grow for me? You may not have a lot of options within your employer's plans on what you can do. Now, I did say a couple times former employers, and the reason is most current employers, a lot of them, will restrict your ability to take money out of that plan. And so you have to, if you're working for a company now, you have a 401k, a 403b, some type of profit sharing plan, you'd have to check with them and see what are my options. I want to take, just tell your employer, I want to take some of this money, I want to put it in an IRA so I can do other investments, and they'll let you know what your options are. And again, you can take that money though, if you're able to move it directly into a traditional IRA, no tax consequence, and you grow your account. Now a lot of people say, well, if I can't do it in a Roth, why bother with the self-direction? Well, your traditional IRA, if you don't ever plan on converting it to a Roth and actually paying the taxes to move it to a Roth, you still want to have your retirement account as large as possible. That's kind of the name of the game when it comes to IRAs and any type of retirement plan. As much money in that account by the time I retire, so I have more to live on, obviously, as I get older. So whether it's a traditional or Roth, or if it's a SEP or a simple if you're on your own business, you really want to do your best to get that account growing and working for you. Now, just here's the contribution limits for 2013. I'm not really going to go over fully in detail, but for a traditional and Roth IRA, you can start out by putting $5,500 a year into that account. If you're over the age of 50, the IRS gives you an additional $1,000 catch-up. So if you're looking to start an IRA or you're looking to continue to add to your accounts, the IRS does limit you on how much money you can contribute year to year out of pocket. Now what they don't limit you, it's not on this screen, is there is no limit on how much you can earn within your IRA in a given year. So if I put $5,500 into a Roth IRA, do a variety of assignments, partnering, doing different transactions throughout the year, and by the end of the year, my account's worth $20,000, $25,000, that's fine. The IRS has no issue with that. They only care about how much you're contributing out of pocket. There's also no limit on transferring money. If you have money currently in an IRA with a Schwab or with a Fidelity, there's no limit on how much that money you can take and move into another IRA account. Because that's not really contributions. That money was already contributed. That's already earned over time. You can certainly take that money and move it into a regular IRA account. Again, those are the possible investments that you can make within an IRA. If you'll jump back. The reason I include this list right before this next slide is because these are some possible investments. This isn't even a complete list of all the different things you can invest in with an IRA account, because the IRS, when they wrote the rules, didn't make a list of what you can invest in. They simply said, here's what you can't do. You can't buy life insurance, you can't buy collectibles. I don't think anyone here looking into buying life insurance or collectibles. Maybe you're here to learn about real estate. You don't have really anything to worry about there. The only thing that could potentially restrict your ability when investing in real estate is your IRA also is prohibited from dealing with certain disqualified persons. So the IRA owner personally is a disqualified person for the IRA, as well as the IRA owner's spouse. Parents, grandparents, kids, grandkids of the IRA owner, any business or entity that is owned or controlled by one of those individuals. Simply what that means, if I have funds in my IRA, I can't lend it to myself, I can't lend it to parents, lend it to grandparents, I can't borrow from my dad's IRA, I can't buy a rental property or I can't buy a property in my IRA and want to live in it. So there are some restrictions when it comes to dealing with these certain individuals. But if you're looking at just acquiring property from third parties or joining up with other investors to buy properties, there's no limit on being able to do this. One thing is, I don't think I have a slide for it, my IRA and my wife's IRA would be prohibited from transacting between the two. So I couldn't have a property in my account and sell it to hers, vice versa. What is possible, though, is for both of our IRAs to partner up together. And so if some of you out there, if you have a spouse or somebody else who might fall into this disqualified person range, it's possible for your IRAs to invest in the same project. Because in that case, you're actually investing with a third party. You're not investing with you're not transferring assets between the two. You're both buying them from a third party. So, long story short, if you are not dealing with disqualified persons, you're working with Mike, you're going out and acquiring other properties from other investors, other people not related to you, there's really no limit on what you can do within the IRA. I've seen a lot of transactions where someone's buying just a piece of property to rent and that's it, or buying a rehab. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. I've seen a lot more creative things. And it's really up to you how complicated you want to get within your IRA account. We'll go over a couple of kind of case studies to show you a little bit what the process works, what our role is, what the client's role is in this type of investing. In this first example, Paul is buying an REO, buying a bank-owned property, has $75,000 in his Roth. Not happy with what he's getting in this, maybe 1-2% in his current money market account. He's looking at buying a foreclosure. He finds a property, he can get it for say $40,000. Needs an additional $8,000 of work to get it rent ready. Once that's done, he checks he can net cash flow about $400 a month. But I think that number I've been told every now and then that's kind of low, because there's no mortgage here. When an IRA is buying property, generally speaking, there is no financing. Your IRA is simply paying cash. Or your IRA and other people are combining funds to buy a property on a cash basis.
So is that possible without financing?
To get financing with an IRA is very difficult to do. It's possible, but you cannot personally guarantee a loan. So if your IRA makes a down payment, your lender has to lend to the IRA account without you personally guaranteeing the note. For that reason, certainly any bank is not going to do it. Now, one area that investors are more attuned to is seller financing. You can find a seller who will finance the loan and say, I'll be happy, just give me a down payment. If your IRA doesn't pay me, I'll have to foreclose, and they're fine with that. That is possible. The client responsibility, opening and funding the account. He opens the account up, transfers money from his current IRA into the advance account. The client's responsibility, again, find the investment property. We are not going to tell somebody what they should or shouldn't invest in. We don't have a book of investments for people to look through. The client makes an offer to purchase, submits some forms to us. Also, the key thing for us, the client is going to review and approve all documents. That last one on the client side. Again, we are not making recommendations as to what somebody should or shouldn't do. We also want to make sure that you do know what you're doing. You're signing off saying, yes, this is acceptable, this is the property I want to purchase. Once we have your approval, we'll sign documents, send money to closing. Now in your retirement account, you're used to getting a statement that shows your different holdings of stocks and mutual funds. The statement from Advance is going to show that you hold an interest in this particular property.
Is a Roth IRA a traditional IRA fair? Do you have a difference here?
The traditional or Roth, there's no difference as far as what you can invest in. The
Okay.
difference would be ultimately how it's treated tax-wise when you retire. A traditional IRA, when you take the money out of retirement, it's included in your income, pay taxes as you take it out. A Roth IRA, completely tax-free. Once you purchase the property, it's important that all expenses get paid out of the IRA. That's the service we provide. You send us the bills, we get the money and the checks paid out of your account. Any income generated as well is going to come back into your IRA. So that $1,000 or $1,200 a month rent comes back into your IRA, expenses go out, the net is what's staying in your account, and generally speaking, that's tax-free revenue to your IRA account. No, you do not pay taxes as you go. Yes?
So what is the property management cost? Can I be my property manager on this case?
You can certainly oversee the property, and as you have bills that come up, send them to us, we'll get them paid. The key thing is we kind of control the funds. That's per IRS rules. We have to have, you have to have a custodian that's actually holding your funds.
What I mean is, can I charge a fee for manage my property?
You cannot, because then your IRA would be paying you, and that would be a prohibited transaction.
Okay, but even if can I open a company, property management company to do that?
No, because it's still your IRA would be paying you or your company a fee. I mean, you can do it and just have all the bills come through us and all the income generated come back through your IRA with us, but you can't receive compensation for doing it. Basically a dividend. If you have stock in your account, you're used to seeing every now and then dividends come back in. They're not taxed to you. Monthly rent, your accrued rental proceeds each month are going to be basically dividends to your IRA. You bought this property for $40,000. Hopefully the market we're seeing, prices are starting to rise. If Paul turns around and sells this property 2 years later, he's going to have 2 years worth of rental proceeds back in his account. The net cash flow each month, $400 a month. Plus, when he sells the property, let's say that $40,000 property is now worth $80,000 because he did some repairs to it, the market's ticking upwards. Completely tax-free. He sells it for $80,000, $80,000 back into his Roth IRA, no tax whatsoever. And I know this sounds, people say, oh, tax-free, it must be some kind of gimmick, and it's not. If you think about it, you had an IRA invested in a brokerage account, and you purchased Google stock the day it first went public. And then that, Google stock doubled, tripled, first day selling, you execute a sale order at the end of that day, boom, sold the stock money back in your IRA. You wouldn't expect to pay tax, would you? Because you'd say, it's a Roth, that's my IRA, and I don't pay tax on it. I'm buying and selling stock. The IRS does not care what investment you have within your IRA, whether it's a stock, bond, real estate, percentage interest in a piece of real estate. It does not matter to them. Tax-wise, it is treated the exact same.
Generally, if you have an emergency situation, generally we penalize if you had to take something out of that.
If you take money out of your IRA before the age of 59 and a half, you're hit with a 10% penalty. If it's a traditional IRA, it's also going to be included in your income tax. With the Roth IRA, there are some instances where it would be also taxable income to you in addition to the 10%. That's what you'd be looking at if you touch it. So if you're doing a lot of rehab work and not doing it in real estate investments, some of it to live on, but you also have other avenues where, I have enough income, I'm making enough money, I'm doing more projects, all this is doing is kicking up another tax bracket, paying more taxes now. That's where you might look at doing some deals. You don't have to do all your deals, but doing some deals within an IRA. You do it within the Roth, you're starting to put a little bit of money here and there away tax-free.
I have a question, just
Sure.
so that for the sake of even numbers, make it easy to calculate. If you had a 100K in a 401K or a TSP account, and you pull it out, and you're already being taxed 10% of that, right? That's a penalty, that's not taxed, but, so that's a penalty. So when I take it out, and then at the end of the year, if I don't put it back into an IRA, it's considered income on me?
Correct.
It's gonna be 90,000 or 100K?
It'd be 100,000. of taxable income due, and you actually have 60 days from when you pull it out to put it into an IRA account.
Okay, and what if I put 50% of that?
Then
So
you would be
it'll-
taxed only on 50% of it.
Okay,
You should only be taxed and penalized on the amount that you kept. So if you had that example, you had 100,000, you took out 50, basically you kept 50, 50 would be subject to tax and penalty. The other 50 you'd be rolling into an IRA, no penalty.
okay, I understand paying taxes goes to the government, but when I'm penalized, if I'm putting money into an employer's 401k for me, and I'm penalized, so the employer's keeping that 10%?
No, the IRS is giving that 10%.
So the IRS is already getting it, and in addition to that, I'm getting taxed later on for 100K, even though 10,000 already got taken out as
Correct.
a penalty.
Correct. The reason the IRS puts the penalty on is they're encouraging you to leave this money in your retirement account.
Right.
They want you to build the money up so that when you do get to retirement age, there's more there for you. The more money you have in retirement, the less you have need for social services, things like that at that time. So that's their kind of way of saying, don't touch that money.
So I'm getting double dipped and totally jacked.
Potentially.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
On that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, but here's the other thing, if you take that 100,000 and you take it out, you have a penalty, whatever you roll in is not gonna be subject to a penalty.
Right.
So whatever you put in IRA, so the 50,000 that you kept personally, you're taxed that year and that's it. The other 50,000 was put back into an IRA, so you weren't taxed now on that.
But the 10% I done lost and can't find it back and can't claim it in taxes or nothing.
Correct.
Actually,
That's nothing more questions for a CPA probably to give you the full gamut of how that would work.
Actually, can I add to that? Because I have seen that before on tax forms. What it is that I would never don't really take out money out of your IRA, either if you're switching it, unless you absolutely have to. Because what happens on tax form, it's not like other tax items where you can you get your standard deduction and your personal exemption type stuff. It's at the bottom, and it just adds right back into that bottom number. So you're guaranteed to pay tax, and there's almost no way to get rid of it on your tax form. So if you take, in your example, you take 100,000 out, 10%, well, that's 10,000, you're gonna pay tax on that 10,000 no matter what. I think there's probably nothing you really do. This is the very bottom of the form. There's nothing else you can subtract out of it.
The way I see it, I'm getting taxed on 110, because they took 10,000 out, I'm not gonna see that back. I pulled out 100,000, they kept 10, but I'm still gonna have to pay $100,000. Pay back for taxes of 100,000, so I'm actually being taxed for 110.
Whenever you take money out of an employer's plan, whatever you don't put back in, or an IRA, if you take a distribution,
Right.
whatever you don't put back in within 60 days is taxable to you, and it's kind of forever out of your IRA. Okay, that money never goes back in.
I thought it was only the difference, so if they took out 10,000, I'd only be taxed for 90,000.
Scott, on the flip side, if you took that 90,000 and you put it into a project that gives you about, I don't know, $25,000, $30,000 a year, and you did that for 5, 10 years, that $10,000 wouldn't mean much.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's kind of, you do have to weigh it out.
Yeah,
Of what can I get back. Now, if you do have a former employer's plan, I mean, what Poet's talking about is taking money out now of a plan that you may be currently involved in. If you have a former employer's plan, that whole amount you have in there can be put right into an IRA, no tax, no penalty. If you have money in another IRA account, a Schwab account, it's in a Schwab IRA, to move it to an advanced IRA, no tax, no penalty, because you're keeping it within. The only thing you're talking about is when you actually take money out to you personally for your use, if you don't take that money and put it back in an IRA within 60 days, that's when you're taxed and you're hit with an early withdrawal penalty.
You know, with the FRS, with the investment plan, they have their own investments, so you get involved in, strictly on their own, and that's it.
For the FRS?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of when you're involved in an employer's plan, that's kind of the downside of the good upside of an employer's plan is your employer a lot of times is kicking some money in as
Right.
you contribute.
Mhm.
The downside is your investment options are limited.
Right.
Now, you can contact the FRS and say, can I take any of this money out and put it in an IRA? I'd like to just pull, I don't want to necessarily take the whole thing if I'm still working, I'm still part of that plan. But I'd like to get somebody out and do something else with it, because they are going to have limited investments. They may pay you 7% a year, and you might say 7% is not enough. I can make more outside.
Can they do that? Can we do that?
If you're involved in a current plan, you have to check with your employer. Because they can, as long as you're currently employed, they can prevent you from moving any money. Now, they can't prevent you from opening up an IRA. If you don't have a Roth IRA, you can open one up, put $5,000 in, and start that right away on your own. Just quickly talk about also about private placements. Another way, again, I mentioned that we see people investing in real estate is not necessarily like the last example where his IRA was buying property, that's the investment in the account, one rental property, one condo, one rehab project. We've seen other individuals kind of pool their money together in an LLC. So there might be 3 or 4 people who are looking at buying the same project. Nobody has enough money individually to buy it, but from a variety of sources, combination of personal funds, retirement funds, etc., they can buy this property for cash. No financing needed, make a cash flow, turn it around, make a big profit, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times people use an LLC or an LLP. It's just an easier way to kind of collect everybody's money under one roof and then have that LLC buy property. Within an LLC, an IRA is basically a member, an equity owner within that LLC. It's not a manager, it's not a managing member, it's just kind of simply a passive partner putting in $25,000 for a 25% stake, whatever the case may be. The LLC would need to have a manager. There would have to be someone, some physical being in charge of the LLC on a day-to-day basis, would it sign contracts, send money out of the LLC, pay expenses, etc. Same thing with an LLP. The IRA is considered a limited partner. You don't really have to be familiar with all these terms. Kind of just an overview, a little bit of LLCs and LLPs. But things to avoid with private placements. Now, if my IRA, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, my IRA can't buy collectibles, it can't buy life insurance. If I was pooling money together in an LLC to go out and buy life insurance policies, that's going to be prohibited. Even if I'm doing it into an LLC and the LLC from there is buying those assets, it's still prohibited. So if I was looking at pooling money together with a couple other people, we're all going to share it as a vacation home. We're all going to own 1/4 of the property, so we'll each can use it 3 months out of the year. That also is prohibited. Your IRA cannot own property that you intend to use personally. It has to be strictly for investment. You also can't deal with disqualified persons, so my IRA cannot put money into an LLC that's going to in turn lend it back to me or one of those other disqualified persons. Again, the current benefit, if it's a property owned through your IRA's LLC, whatever the case may be, you cannot be living in it. Next case that you'll go over, let's say we have Larry, he's got a smaller Roth, $20,000. And again, wants to invest in an LLC that's purchasing a large investment project. So maybe the project could be a couple $100,000, could be $500,000, could be $1 million or more. But they're soliciting, they're looking for investors, they're looking to kind of pool people's money together and come up with the funding to do it. So again, Paul is going to review the property, review what their kind of overall plan is for the LLC, and decides, I'll be part of this. I want to be in capital partners, it's going to be a good return on my money, and I like to do that return if possible in my Roth IRA. I have a regular job, or I have other income, I don't necessarily need the income from this investment now. It'd be much better utilized for me to get this down the road. He won't be a manager within this IRA. Within this LLC, it's simply his IRA as a passive investor. So he decides to go ahead and invest in the LLC. The important thing for us, it's kind of a paperwork thing, but the investor within that LLC is his IRA account. There's a certain wording, advanced IRA services for benefit of Larry's IRA, number 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The tax ID number, the other very important thing is if you are investing in an LLC and they're doing, it says a tax as a partnership, they're going to give you a K-1 at the end of the year for your investment income. Important, very, very important, the advanced tax ID number to be used as for the member of that LLC. If you put your social on there, the government's going to start getting K-1s reported to your social, and this investment is in your Roth. You don't want that occurring. But we certainly help you make sure that doesn't happen. We sign off on the operating agreement. Again, the manager is not a disqualified person. There can be some gray area. Again, this is kind of where you get a gray area of IRS rule. If I'm involved in a LLC where my father's the manager and my IRA is one of the members, he's a disqualified person and now he's in charge of this LLC. I don't know that it's necessarily prohibited because I'm not lending money directly to him. It would definitely be prohibited, but it's something to consider. So again, the IRA is a limited investor. The money is simply coming back as dividends back into the IRA account. So again, Larry's going to open up the account, found the LLC project we want to invest in, submits the forms to us. We're going to review, make sure everything's properly titled, make sure Larry is approved of them. Ultimately, we'll sign the documents, send funds to his LLC. One thing to remember, if you were looking to investing in a project that's fractionally owned, if your IRA owns, say, 10% of that LLC, and there's a capital call for $10,000, and you need $10,000 of capital, so now my IRA is 10% owner, it needs to put in $1,000. Since my IRA is the owner, my IRA has to contribute that $1,000. I can't personally put that money in. That would be prohibited transaction, disqualified persons. Now I'm putting personal money in my pocket, not to the IRA. Now I can take my money, put it into my IRA as an annual contribution, get it inside the IRA first, and then fund the capital call. So it's kind of just a different step. But if you're investing in a project where the capital call might be, you might have to come up with $10 or $15 or $20,000 you only, you can't put $10,000 into a Roth IRA each year. You can only put that $5,500. So you want to make sure you had some cash reserves to be able to do that. Adding a new member can dilute the ownership. Don't really cover that in too much detail. One other area, we talked kind of about buying real estate directly. We just talked about IRAs owning an interest in LLC, which is in turn owning real estate. Another big area that we see individuals invest IRA funds is in private lending. Your IRA, acting as the bank, can do a variety of different loans. You can do a 15-year mortgage, do a 5-year balloon, an interest-only loan. It could be a secured note. I lend money to you, you give me a mortgage on your property. So if you don't pay, I know I can at least foreclose or have some collateral security for my loan. But I could also do unsecured lending. I could lend money, you simply sign a promissory note. I promise to pay you. That's an acceptable, albeit maybe a little riskier type of investment to do, but you can certainly do that. The key thing is that your IRA is acting as the bank. So if it's your IRA funds, you have $30, $40, $100,000 in your IRA account, someone wants to borrow, if you go to a bank, do you walk into the bank and tell them what you're going to pay them? No. They tell you, what do you want to borrow? What's the property? Okay, well, that's the property. I'll lend you 100 grand. Bank, I'll lend you 100 grand. It's going to be 4 or 5% interest. You're going to pay me back over 30 years. Well, again, your IRA is the bank. So if someone wants to borrow money from you, okay, well, how much do you want to borrow? What's your collateral? How long do you want to pay this back? You get to set those terms. And if I say, well, I'm not taking anything less than 10%, interest only, and the borrower says, I'll pay that, that's fine. That's 10% a year back into my IRA. 10% return, maybe not the greatest return, but if it's consistent, if it's interest only, that's just like a CD. And I don't know any CDs that are paying over 1.5%, much less 10.
If that much.
If that much. So, again, all these terms that you have when coming up with a loan or you signing off on, that can all be negotiated between you and your borrower. Your IRA, what are you willing to accept? What property are you willing to lend on? What type of down payment do you want? You don't want any down payment. That's completely up to you. You have small account balances. Again, some of the things we see, options, assignable contracts, I talked about those a little bit earlier. Foreign currency trading, precious metals, and again, another big one, partnering with other investors. Having your IRA on a smaller piece of the pie, 25, 30 grand, you can't buy the whole project yourself. You can partner up with other people and do it through an LLC, share the benefits according to that. The last one, leveraging with a question mark, that's what the lady in the back you asked earlier about, leveraging your IRA. Again, it's possible to do. Your IRA can acquire what's called a non-recourse loan from a lender. You cannot personally guarantee it though. You're just not going to see many banks, many lenders willing to do that. There are some that will. There are a couple. And one's in Missouri, one's in South Dakota. But they're looking at 30 to 40% down, and they have a minimum loan balance, usually like 50 grand to get started. But again, you all are investors. You're more savvy than ordinary people getting seller financing. The seller's willing to finance that for you and say, hey, it's going to be a non-recourse loan. I'm going to give you 20% down right now, and if I don't pay you back next month, you're going to have to foreclose. They might say, that's fine. I was willing to hold the balance. I prefer payments, but this is a good risk for me. I'll take 20% down, and maybe I'll hope you don't pay me. I'll foreclose and I'm going to take the property right back. So there's certainly different ways you can be creative in doing it. Question?
2 questions. Number 1, when you have the IRA and you're borrowing against it or you're lending against it, is there a minimum requirement that must stay in there to keep it open? And then number 2, if at the end of the year, like let's say you % of it at the end of the year, throughout the year, it goes up and down and up and down, what are you taxed on at the end result, at the close of the year? What?
Let's take your first question again was,
Minimum requirement to stay open if you're constantly lending out or borrowing from it.
alright, well, if your IRA is lending to third parties,
Uh-huh.
there's no limit on how, you can lend out the entire balance of your account, and the person's gonna pay you back over the course of the year.
So, but it still stays open, it's not gonna be a closeout if you,
No, because your IRA is holding a note. It's holding an
Okay.
actual asset within the account. It'd be like taking all your money and putting it in Apple stock. You have no cash in your account, you just have a holding of Apple stock. Well, Apple stock is probably easier to sell than a private mortgage note, but it's the same type. There's no minimum cash you have to keep in the account.
okay.
Now, if you were borrowing money and your IRA was looking at acquiring financing to buy a property, your lender may want to see some cash in the account as a reserve. Again, what your second question was, I think on tax, if you've lent all that money, if you've lent money out of your account to a third party and they're paying you back, the money they're paying you back tax-free, when they pay off the note coming back into your account, tax-free. Because the money's not coming out to you it's not going out of your IRA to you for your personal use. That's when the IRS will tax you on a distribution or penalize you for an IRA, is when you take the money out, say, I need to go on a vacation, I need money to live on, I need money to go buy a car, give me a check, and it comes to you personally. That's when you are subject to potential penalties or tax. If you take your IRA to invest in a project, to lend money to a third party, the money is going out for an investment. It is not taxed, because it's still all under the IRA umbrella. Yes.
So you can buy precious metals?
You can purchase actual physical gold and silver.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people do precious metals investing through like ETFs and other types of funds that are tied to gold and silver, but it is permissible to actually buy the physical gold and silver. You just have to have somebody store it for you. You have to, usually like a depository institution or something like that for those types. That kind of concludes. I'll certainly, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them now. But here's my contact information. I'm going to leave some cards, leave some information on the table outside. So if you'd like to give me a call next week, I'd be happy to set up a time to meet with you personally or answer any questions you have. But yes.
How much is your administrative fee?
Our administrative fee, good question, I didn't cover that, but I have some packets over there with our fees in it. Basically, there's a $50 one-time fee to open an account. There's a $95 fee when you do a transaction, when you actually are buying an asset. So in those examples, closing on the property, putting your money into the LLC is a one-time $95 fee. We have an annual fee. The minimum is $195 a year for an account. And it kind of can go up from there based on the value. We have another option that will cap your fee at $295 a year for each asset in your account. So if you had $100,000 in an IRA, bought a rental property, just one property in the account, $295 a year, and that covers in us all the checks we have to cut. If you're paying taxes and insurance, etc., that all comes out of out of that $295. That's included. Yes.
I had a couple questions. So if I have $100,000 sitting in a savings account, and someone asks me to lend them $80,000 as a mortgage, I cannot take that money over for me, $6,500.
Right.
Yeah, $6,500, and I'd have to build that up.
You would. I mean, you could put in. I mean, you have until April 15th actually each year to do prior years. So you'd have a few more days here. You could put money in for 2012 of $6,000, and then the other $6,500 for 2013.
Please
You
repeat
couldn't-
that again. They have to hear that. Repeat that again.
To put money in for 2012, your contribution deadline is April 15th of this year, so in a couple of weeks. If you have a SEP IRA, not to get too complicated, like if you're a small business owner, you might be able to set up like a SEP IRA where you can put a lot more money away. Your deadline's a little bit later this year. But for regular Roth IRA, April 12th is your deadline or April 15th, the year following. So April 15th, 2013 is the deadline for 2012 contributions, April 15th, 2014. But I think what you're getting at in your question is if you have cash in a personal savings, you can't really just kind of say, I'm putting it all in an IRA. The IRS does limit you year to year.
It's a week from Monday.
Week from Monday, yes.
So can you have more than one IRA? Like how you're saying they limit you each year and how much you can put in?
You're allowed to have as many IRAs as you wish, but you're limited to contributing that amount each year. So if I open up an IRA in advance on one at Schwab, I can't put $6,500 in each. I can only put a combined $6,500.
Is there a minimum?
Is there a minimum? No.
No minimum amount you put in?
There's no minimum amount to put in. I mean, we charge our fees, like I said, our minimum is $195 a year annual fee. But yeah, you can have an account with Schwab, you can have an account with Advanta and move some of your money from Schwab to Advanta. You don't have to put all or one. You can maintain multiple IRAs and move the money back and forth between the two as you make gains or losses within each account. Yes.
So can you create an IRA for your young dependents? They're not retiring anytime soon, but, no?
The key for making an IRA for your dependents is everybody has to have earned income to contribute to an IRA. So your children would have to have earned income. Now, I've certainly have seen some CPAs that have done this and have created earned income for their children of a maximum of $5,000. They make sure their kids have $5,000 of earned income, and they put it all in a Roth. So all into a Roth IRA each year. That is possible, but your child.
You're gonna see later on,
Yes, sir.
my grandson will be working here today, and got his
Yeah, you
contribution.
could. People use their children for advertising on marketing materials, things like that. They pay their children from that. And that's more of a CPA, your CPA saying, yes, I'm comfortable with you doing that. More so, I mean, we'll take the money in and open it. It's up to you to make sure that the child actually has the earned income. That the IRS is gonna come back to you with that.
And will you waive application fee for all the investor mentorship students?
I will.
There you go.
Which
No, but you do, the $50. But you do need to contribute money to the account to get it started. And
That's right.
get that
Is
happening.
IRA safe from foreclosure?
An IRA, the question is IRAs are safe from foreclosure. In Florida, and under Florida law, IRAs are protected from your creditors. So money you have within a retirement account in Florida, if you have a personal judgment against you, they cannot touch your IRA. It's one of the great part of our creditor protection laws in Florida.
So they can't sue the IRA either, so if the IRA was on that whole held the property and they want to sue the owner of the property, can they sue the IRA?
Yes,
They can't sue the IRA?
yes, that's the difference. If you ask for creditor protection for my personal creditors,
Alright.
the IRA is protected from that. Now, if my IRA owns real estate, like that first example, the Paul just had straight property. If someone slips and falls, they're going to sue the owner, which is his IRA account.
But
They
the
may
IRA
not sue out. They may not go after him personally.
Yeah. The IRAs, but then if the IRA sued you, you can't get touched.
Presumably, yes.
Yeah.
And I say presumably because there's really not a lot of case law on these things, so I can't say. And I never know when a judge is going to come up and say, "Oh, you know, you were managing, you knew what you were doing with the IRA." I don't think so, though. I would think they'd be limited to simply just the IRA.
Yes, if you have your IRA under a LLC, that's possible, right?
You're right. Can you be sued?
No, I mean, you can't take your IRA and put it under an LLC, and then your LLC buys property.
You could do that. We've
Asset protection.
You could do it potentially for asset protection. You know, certainly in the example we had fractional ownership where there was like 3 or 4, maybe a lot more people's IRAs invested in the same project. You could have asset protection. You have a multi-member LLC. If you have your IRA as the only owner of one LLC, in Florida, single-member LLCs don't enjoy asset protection. So, but if you have multiple members, at least 2 or more, there is some asset protection in an LLC. So if people are concerned about creditor, you know, somebody suing your property, if you have it through an LLC, it makes it much more difficult.
I got a question I think a lot of people might relate to here. We took cash as partners, cash out of our savings and invested with Mike. Okay, let's just say our investment property was an apartment complex. So now we're getting back $300 a month each in rental property. How do we go from the cash that we invested to him into having it put in? Is that our contribution into our self-directed?
It would be, but here's the thing, a lot of times real estate income is considered passive. Like if you get rents back, that's passive income. The IRS does not consider that earned income, and you must have earned income to contribute to an IRA. So that $5,500 or $6,500 a year that you can put in has to come from earned income. Now, if you have a job and you made $8,000, $10,000, $50,000 last year at W-2 or Schedule C income, but you're using the cash from the investment, that's fine. It just can't be your only basis.
Yeah, but if we use cash from the IRA, we can get away with this. If we use IRA funds to invest with Mike into an apartment complex, that rental money can go back into the IRA. But because we spent cash now, so how do we get from investing cash to having our income go to the IRA?
You'd have to start with contributions, putting money in that $6,500 a year, putting that into an IRA, and then taking that money and investing in it and continuing to make contributions year to year.
So this could be years before we go from this point to having stuff in our retirement.
Well, I mean, you'd have the initial money you put in, and whatever earnings you're starting to accumulate, that's what's coming back into your IRA. If you haven't, I mean, if you don't have an IRA yet, it's going to take some time to build up. It's not going to happen overnight.
But I guess he was thinking of his first contribution.
Right.
To have
Right.
consider it as an IRA fund as opposed to just a savings. But I guess at this point, he can't really do anything
Not-
with that.
The only thing you could do is,
That's
from
right.
the monies you're making off the investment with Mike, is to take that cash and say, this is part of my contribution for the year. And that's it. And as you accumulate money, doing another investment in the IRA, and then at that point, all the earnings come back to the IRA.
As long as you have earned income, you can add that to your earned income for the contribution.
Correct.
That's interesting.
You can't, even though it's passive income, can you consider it earned income if you say, okay, well, as passive income, I'm paying the company, well, I'm being paid to do something for the company?
If you incorporate yourself, and you're going to pay yourself a salary, and if you have those earnings wrapped in incorporation, then yes, because you'd be paying yourself a salary and giving yourself a W-2 each year, or having Schedule C income that you're paying Social Security, Medicare taxes on. At that point, yes, you'd be able to do that. But just straight rental income coming back in without that type of arrangement, it wouldn't be a basis for your contribution.
And is it worth it to incorporate, to pay myself so that's considered taxable, income to put into an IRA? Is that helping me in any way for tax purposes to save money?
That's something to talk to a CPA about. Potentially, if you're incorporating yourself.
Yeah, they're gonna try to sneak them in.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll add to that, just, as far as contributing to IRA, that's fine, you probably should be careful because earned income always has worse taxes than passive, because the other thing you might get hit is things like self-employment tax, or just, like Social Security, FICA tax.
Okay.
And just generally passive and portfolio income has nicer tax laws to it.
Okay.
Capital gains rates are lower than personal income tax. Now, some people though will still incorporate themselves to the income they have because there might be some other benefits that go along with it.
A lot of
That's
benefits.
right. So that's something to talk with the CPA about though, because as Chris said, you have Social Security taxes, other things you have to consider as well. But when you do, if you do that and you have a salary, you have Schedule C income, you can take that money and use it as your contribution.
Yeah, I didn't know you to talk about it. Can I have part of my money and part of my IRA money to buy a property?
You can. You can combine IRA funds and personal funds to buy property, and you'll split the income and expenses according to whatever that percentage of ownership is.
So you cannot pay yourself more and IRA less?
No. It would be according to whatever, I mean, if your IRA owns 25% and you personally own 75%, your rent check each month, 75% of that goes to you, 25% to the IRAs, and the expenses would go back out the same way. You could not change those percentages. I can give you a lot of different new CPAs names that are familiar.
They got one right
One over here.
Actually, next month she'll be teaching us a class.
Yes.
Okay, on these lists of collectibles that you cannot invest in, I see these, but what about vehicles? Not that I own something that's worth collecting, it's considered a collectible, but automobiles or whatever.
If it was a collectible car, like an antique, then definitely prohibited. Now, if it was just a regular car, not necessarily prohibited, but you wouldn't be able to drive it. Because you're getting a benefit from it. So if you bought a car and we're gonna strictly have it housed in a garage and you leased it out every weekend to whomever and you got lease income back in, potential, but you can never drive it.
Can you sit in the passenger seat?
Yeah. You're right in it, right. Exactly what I was going to say.
You're still driving, because you're driving benefit at that point from the ownership of the car.
Okay.
Current benefit, and that's what the IRS prohibits. So generally speaking, no, people don't buy cars in IRAs.
Okay, so this whole thing that if it's 25 years or older, it's considered a collectible, like, these muscle cars and stuff. But if you're showboating and you go to those things, and that's the only reason why you do this, just to show it off, that's considered collectible?
Yes.
Okay.
Another question. If a person's going on disability, is that considered earned income?
Disability income, no.
No,
Earned-
so
earned
if a
income is-
person is, myself, if a person is investing because they know this is coming up and they're investing to try to supplement their income, then this whole IRA thing for me is not, or what? I mean,
If you haven't started one yet, and you
I have one through my employer, but I can't transfer
right.
funds.
If you're looking to start an IRA, you have to have earned income. So if you have one through your employer, that means you have an employer, you have earned income.
Yeah, right now I do.
Right.
Right now I do.
So-
But I'm trying to do these investments to supplement the inevitable for me, you know?
Right.
So that's how.
So you can make contributions basically up until the point you no longer have earned income. So
And
each
then when
year-
things, and then when my income is based on investments, it can't go back into that IRA. It's gonna be taxed as just income?
Yes, and here's kind of two things. Your money personally invested now, that you're gonna be, it's investment income to you, pay tax on it. What I'm kind of talking about is over here, you start putting money into an IRA, contributing it here, and then this is making another investment.
Right.
The money is made on this investment come back to the IRA. This over here would still just come back to you personally.
Now, can he grow his IRA by putting money in property that still has debt, which has a future greater value, to get a greater value on his investment amount?
Potentially.
Yes.
What's a fiduciary?
Oh, it's just,
Allow fiduciary, you cannot, it's a prohibited transaction. You cannot allow fiduciaries to retain or use the plan's income or assets for their own interest.
a fiduciary could be like a trustee of a trust. It could be us as the administrator of the account. It's you as the individual are a fiduciary of your own IRA account. So that's why I'm saying, when you're talking about a car, you're a fiduciary, you're also the IRA owner, you're disqualified from using the plan assets. Whether it's a house or a car, you can't use it personally. Strictly for investment.
Like a 60-foot yacht, and then we would have this meeting on the
That's good.
You think I'm joking?
Well, I've already gone way over, but
That's okay.
we had some good questions. Like I said, I'm gonna leave some materials here, I'll leave my cards, whatever, just please give me a call with any questions that you have. We'll be more than happy to, like I said, meet with you in person, one-on-one, if you have some specific questions you wanna get answered. Do it on the phone, in person, whatever the case may be.
All right.
Thank you, Mike.
I encourage every one of you, meet with Scott, get set up, no matter where you're at right now, get it going, so you don't wait 5, 10, 20 years and then go, "Yeah, I should have done this." Okay, and take advantage of it, okay? He'll be available for a few minutes, and I do encourage him, he does one-on-one, and he'll go wherever he's gotta go, so.
There's no minimum amount to open an account, right?
There's no minimum to open an account, but our minimum annual fee is $195 when you've bought an asset. If you're just sitting with cash in your account, our fee is $100 a year for a cash-only account.
But somebody can just start with $500 account, $1,000.
You could just start with 500. It may not make, if you're not planning on doing anything investment like that with it, then it may not make sense to necessarily open it with us. You might put $500 with your bank or with Schwab, and then when you're ready to make your real estate investment, transfer it to that.
I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit, where if you're just gonna put in a few $100s, we're gonna talk about tax lien certificates. Instead of leaving them in the bank with 0% or 1%, 16, 18% on a tax certificate. And if you don't know what a tax certificate is, you will know in a few minutes. They're guaranteed money, I promise you that, okay?
I'm actually dealing with one right now, so I can.
I just did one, and it was a very big one. It was almost $21,000, so the interest on it was a lot of money. So you definitely want to get involved. It doesn't matter whether it's a $500 one or a $5,000 or $50,000 one. You just want to get in the game.
I have one question. Advante used to be Entrust. What happened to Entrust?
Entrust, the parent company Entrust is still around. They started in Oakland, California, and back in 2003 they had a franchise program, and that's how we started as a franchise, the Entrust of Tampa Bay. That company, Entrust and all the franchises decided to mutually agree just to terminate the franchise agreement at the end of 2011. So all of the Entrust franchises are now independently, independent from Entrust. So that's why you have Advance IRA here, and some of the other ones across the country have changed their name. Parent company is still in existence, but they're in California.
So we didn't lose the money.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Scott. I do recommend it for children, grandchildren. Speaking of grandchildren, I have a very, very, very special guest worker today, and he's going to be talking to you about his future plans, just to let you know that there's no age minimum to where you can get started. He has to earn approximately $5,000, somewhere around there a year, so it goes into his retirement. This is Malachi Perez. This is Malachi, and some of you have already met him. And recently him and his mom had a discussion. He's on our videos and he's on some of our presentations, and he's going to tell you about his future plans. Malachi.
Well, the Pier Hotel is going really good, and I told someone that I worked there a little. So I'm saying to everyone, please have a good time at the Pier Hotel, but it's going to be very busy next week.
So tell what your plans are for about working there. Why you want to work there?
Because the front desk is a little fun.
Okay. And what did Grandma tell you? He calls Grandma Lita. So why he has to learn the hotel?
She told me that if the Pier Hotel doesn't go on good, me and my dad will go help out in a little. And then if the customers are having a little problem, we'll go fix it.
And what about for retirement for you when Grandma and Grandpa retire, or they, what did you say, kick the bucket? Tell them about it.
Well, I said kick the butt because, like, if they D.I.E.
then what happens?
Then me and my dad and mom are going to take over the pier.
All right, so that's the retirement plan, and that's my backup plan. All right. Anything else you want to say to? Oh, all right, that's Malachi.
Malachi, I got a question here.
Malachi, I got a question for you.
Do you have Social Security number? No.
He does. It just
Oh, he
doesn't.
does?
He doesn't know what it is, though.
All right.
Again, there is no minimum age. They just have to earn the money. He does things around the house. He helps me with I tell you what, though, he's gonna make a good bill collector. Because at the minute when he's done, he says, well, am I getting paid today? I need the money today. And cash. He actually gets a portion of it for himself to do whatever he wants, and then the rest goes into an account. Okay, so I do recommend it for everyone, kids, friends. It does work out great. And again, thank you, Scott, for.
Thank you.
If I can add one other quick thing, the other thing that's, a lot of times my presentations focus on you as an individual. Your IRA, you're looking for sources of funding. So a lot of people outside this room that have IRAs, you might very well be looking for better return. You go up someone, I'll pay you 7% annual on your IRA, they might think that's incredible, and you think that's an incredible deal for me to get property for financing by borrowing money from someone's IRA. So it's another kind of outside of what I presented, other people's money.
Let me add to that. I just did a deal on a $700,000 property. The guy loaned me the first 4 years at 4%, because he said it was better than his 1%, and then the second 5 years at 6%. He said, is that too much? I said, no, I'm good. And it is a beautiful house in Palm Harbor. I think I showed it to a few people. But, and I don't even need the property, but how can I pass up? How can I pass up? The deals are out there. So there is one more person that I'm going to bring in for a few minutes. He's going to talk to you for about 8-10 minutes. As you know, the economy has taken these turns, and now it's starting to kind of start edging up, and that's a good thing. So the other person is William Crowley. If you don't know him, you're going to know him in a little bit. And what he does, he helps you with, you know what, I'm going to let you tell you.
How many people here know me already? Okay, I don't know you all. Well, I wasn't prepared to come here to speak today, but because I have another engagement that to go to, but Mike did ask me, so I said, you know, I'm always ready to talk about it. I wasn't prepared with my PowerPoint, but as those of you who know me, I'm always willing and ready to talk about the services I provide. But how many here are investors? Investors? Okay, everybody. All right, well, with my service, I'm here to talk to you as investors, and I guess this program can work for your clients as well, okay? those of you who don't know, I do credit restoration. I brought my cards and I'll leave some out there on the table. Somebody say something? Oh, I thought I heard somebody say something. Other than me. Huh? Oh, that was you talking. Okay. You have a question already? Oh, okay. Yeah, you got started yet. Anyway, I do credit restoration assistance, and there's a lot of companies out there that do credit repair. Some of them call it credit restoration. I like to use credit restoration because of the fact that if you are in my program, or if you're familiar with my program, or if you've been to my presentation in the past, you know that you're going to have access to all the information from the credit bureaus and the Fair Credit Reporting Act that is out there. Okay, we don't sit up here and tell you that we're going to do this stuff and send it all for you. That's a total waste of time. You need to see exactly what's going on, and then you'll see results. If you do what we tell you to do, you'll get results. I give 100% money back guarantee if you don't see results. Now, what do we do? Okay, we have a 4-stage credit restoration program. You need to be. Can I just use the board right quick? Okay. I brought my own just in case. Okay, listen. You have to be familiar with, when you're doing credit repair, and a lot of people say they do it themselves, okay? And I feel, you know, that's fine if you do it yourself, but you should have some type of knowledge about what you're doing. I've been doing this since 1999, and I still don't have it down pat, but I probably know a little bit more than the person who wants to do it themselves, okay? For instance, you need to be familiar with this acronym right here. Anybody know what that is? Fair Credit Reporting Act, okay? Anybody read it? No, unfortunately you haven't. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, what about this one here? This other acronym here. FDCPA.
What?
FDCPA. Anybody know what that one means?
Fair Debt Protection Act. Fair Debt Credit.
How do you collect that?
Well, the credit, this is collection. Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Okay. Anybody ever heard that? Okay, you read it? Anybody ever read it? Shame on you. What about this here one here? The UCC. Anybody heard of that? Oh, I like to use the acronyms because that's what they use. Uniform Commercial Code. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody read it? Okay, so read it. Okay. I definitely would want to tell you to read the negotiable instruments sections of this document here. Okay, negotiable instruments section. Yes, if you haven't, read the negotiable instruments section of the Uniform Commercial Code. That'll definitely open your eyes up to how the whole industry of commerce works. Okay, you need to be familiar with that, each and every one of you. So some people just say they're familiar with this, but they're not familiar with this. If you are what I would call a consumer, and I hate that word, but for lack of a better phrase, you should be familiar with the laws that protect you as a consumer. Why should you be understand those? Because the credit reporting agency, anybody seen 60 Minutes about like 2 or 3 months ago? I think maybe it was in February. They ran a special on the credit reporting agency. If you didn't get the opportunity to see that, you should go to it and see it. It's called, go to www.60minutesoverview.com and look up credit reporting agencies, the scam that they're running. See, they always think that people like me are running a scam. I'm just trying to get you out of the problem that you've had in the past as a result of the credit reporting agency violating your rights as it pertains to the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Now, the Fair Credit Reporting Act says this, okay? Remember I told you at the beginning I do a 4-stage credit restoration program, okay? First step is disputing the negative information on your credit report. Now, I talk about those Mickey Mouse disputes that you use online that the credit reporting agency gives you to dispute the information on your credit report, okay? I'm talking about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is about 96 pages of laws, and it gives you about anywhere from probably, I would venture to say, between 7 to 15 disputes that you can use per negative item on your credit report, okay, to have it removed. Not the 3 that the credit reporting agency give you, which are, if you're not familiar, it's not mine, I was never late, those are the 2 predominant ones, okay? But there's 96 pages of them if you go review the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So we use the 96 pages of the laws of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now we're going after the credit reporting agency for violation of due process. We know that either yourself or your clients have done most of this information, okay? Most people come to me, they have repossession, bankruptcy, tax lien, collection accounts, late payments, inquiries, anything that adversely affects your credit, we can attack using the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And we can get between 60 to 80% off of it. Ironically, I should be able to get 100% off, right? I should be 100% because they have violated these laws. But since the credit reporting agencies are investigating themselves, which we don't get that opportunity, right? I mean, you ever commit a crime and say, listen, well, hold on, I'll investigate myself and I'll get back with you, right? We don't get that opportunity, but the credit reporting agencies do get that opportunity And then people get the impression they're part of the government. They're not part of the government. I know you all are intimidated by the government, but you have to be, because they're breaking more laws than anybody, okay? Please, okay? I want to make this clear to you and plain to you, because don't get up here and never think that the government and the corporation, they make the laws for us to follow, not for them. They make their money by breaking the laws that they want us to follow, okay? But I won't get on in the tangent with that, because most of you know why I am. but let me say that the Fair Credit Reporting Act is going to make sure, if you help me utilize this information, we can make sure the credit reporting agencies do what they're supposed to. They're just private companies, folks. And they gather information on me and you, and then they sell it, okay? They sell me and your information without our permission, but they do it indirectly, because if none of you have put a promotional block on your credit report, then you've given them the ability to sell your information. If you have a Social Security number, write this number down and call it when you get home. Stop the credit reporting agency from marketing your information, because they're not giving you a kickback on that when they're marketing your information. 888-567-8688. 888-567-8688. Call that number and opt out. What I want to strongly encourage people to do is do it indefinitely. Okay? Whether you have bad credit or good credit, 888-567-8688. Okay. Call it and opt out. Do it on anybody with a Social Security number in your household, family, friends, etc. Co-worker too. Go ahead.
So if there's like, they have to check my credit, if I put a stop on this, will that affect that? If I have to do refinance, they have to check my credit?
No. A promotional block stops the credit reporting agency from doing any type of indirect pulls of your credit for marketing purposes. If you do it hard, that's a hard inquiry. There's two types of inquiry, a hard and a soft. That's a soft inquiry. But you want to stop the credit reporting agencies from being able to do that because they're marketing your information. And you don't know whose hands your credit reports are getting into. And they're the biggest perpetrators of identity theft, is the credit reporting agency. The same one that's supposed to protect your credit report and your Social Security number are the biggest violators ever. So you have to put a promotional block on it to stop them from selling your information. So that would not prevent you from getting any type of loans or consolidating any type of loan. Okay?
So there are any websites we can do that, or we have to call?
There's a I didn't bring my sheet in, pre-screen opt-out, www.prescreenopt-out. You can use that as well. But you can just call the 800 number. It's really simple. It's computerized and it does it right on the spot. And then you can do any additional family members or friends with that, as long as you have the Social Security number. Opt-out indefinitely or for 5 years. Okay, so the Fair Credit Reporting Act, we're going to be using that to go after the negative information on your credit report for violation of due process. Not so much that you didn't do it. We know that you did it, okay? Most of the information on there, you did do it, okay? But the point is the credit reporting agency did not call you to get your permission to put the information on your credit report.
Yeah, it's true.
See? Okay, you catch me because I know most of you have been through the public school system. Public school system, and it's contributed to dumbing you down. So you pretty much just do whatever the so-called authorities tell you to do, and you don't question it or whatever. I tell people question authority. That's the way you get answers, true answers. Go ahead.
See, sometimes when you do refinance, they send you this letter say, okay, your information will be shared by our partners. You have to call this number to stop it. You know something? So if you're too busy to call it, if you call this number that you talk about, will that stop them to do that?
Yeah, right. If you put a promotional block on your credit report, wherever your credit is shared with whomever, then they'll do that. But I would encourage you that if you're running a hard inquiry and it does have that statement in there, then go ahead and accept, go ahead and agree with that statement to tell them, yeah, don't send my information to a third party. But the promotional block should stop all that. But it's a problem dealing with these credit reporting agencies because we have to monitor them carefully because they'll say one thing and they'll do something totally different because they are supposed to be abiding by this without us having to administer it. But of course, I'm in business, I've been in business for the last 15 years, specifically to enforce this upon the credit reporting agency. And people around the country, I do this in all 50 states, people around the country, the first question they give me is it legal? I said, my goodness, do you know anything about what the credit reporting agency is doing? They're violating your rights on a daily basis. You should be receiving a call every time there's a change on your credit report. You should be receiving a call from the credit reporting agency getting your permission and making sure that the information is correct. That's correct. You should be receiving a call from them. Has anybody in here received a call from the credit reporting agency? Please, anybody. I've been doing this presentation for 15 years. I've never ran into one person that's received a call, but yet still you're supposed according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you should be receiving a call. Every transaction, every business transaction that's put on your credit report, you should be receiving a call. And nobody's received a call. Then people mistakenly say, yeah, I received a call, but what they're doing is talking about the collection agencies, which you're going to be bombarded with calls there. And I'll talk about that in just a minute, okay, guys? I'm sure I don't have that much time. So that's what we're going to use, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and we're going to go after the credit reporting agencies, and you're going to see some astounding results because information is going to start to be removed off your credit report that you in fact know does belong to you. And it still does belong to you, but it cannot be reflected on the credit report because we've targeted them to the Fair Credit Reporting Act violation of due process. Okay, we got all that?
Yes.
Any question on that now?
How long does that take?
Okay, I'll work with you. It should take 30 days. That's all it should take is 30 days. But my contract with you is for 12 months. Why? Because I got these same crooks. I'm trying to convince these crooks, the credit reporting agent. I'm going to put the credit reporting agent because I don't want you to think that these are the crooks. These are the crooks to me. And I'm pretty direct when I tell you about this, okay? Because I've seen all the atrocities they've committed, and it's not fair to us, okay? It disrupts every way that we try to advance in life from a commercial standpoint. They prohibited that and prevented it strategically as well.
Not fair.
Okay, right. So the Fair Credit Reporting Act is going to monitor the credit reporting agencies. Okay, we're going to do that, and so it's going to take. It should take 30 days. That's all it should take. And I should be able to wipe the slate clean. Of course, I don't get that. It doesn't work like that. So I'm going to work on your credit report for 12 months, and I can tell you between 60 to 80% of the negative information can be removed. Okay, legally be removed. Then you can turn around and sue for damages. We'll go into that in a different presentation. Okay? We cool on that now? Cool with that? Okay, now let's shoot over here. Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Okay? Now this here specifically deals with the collection. You gotta know who the collectors are, okay? Because these are these ruthless sons of guns that are calling you on debts that you don't owe. You don't owe it. Somebody said earlier, I think they talked about options on dealing with debt consolidation, DC. CCC is Consumer Credit Counseling. And then some people have what they call CPN numbers now. I just was introduced, well, I haven't been just introduced to it, but CPN numbers. Don't exercise any of this until you exercise this here. This can prevent you from having to go this route. In some cases, okay? Bankruptcy is not a bad thing. Consumer credit counseling, debt consolidation, they're not a bad thing. What is a bad thing here is the CPN numbers, I believe, okay? And I'll talk to you about that at a different time. Call me up for a personal presentation on that. Now, okay, here's my number. 727, I'll pass my card out as well. 727-798-3092. Just take a card and pass it around like quickly while I'm talking. Whoever doesn't have one. Okay, so what do we do? What happens in the bankruptcy or debt consolidation or consumer credit counseling? What they're doing is they're assuming that you've already went and exercised your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, so therefore now if this wasn't successful, then you can pursue one of these avenues, okay? Now, bankruptcy I'm cool with. I'm cool with bankruptcy as long as you understand what the bankruptcy doing is discharging debt. It's something that you can, if you're knowledgeable enough, you can do it under Uniform Commercial Code by changing your status from a debtor to a creditor. You can do it yourself. But most people aren't savvy enough to do that, so they go to the bankruptcy court and ask their permission. But nevertheless, if you're going to do that, that's fine. What they're going to do is penalize your credit for the next 10 years, when in reality you can have your credit overturned in as little as 30 days or maybe as much as 12 months, okay, without having to be penalized for the next 10 years for a bankruptcy. For Chapter 13 bankruptcy is 7 years after you discharge the debt, and for Chapter 13 is 7 years after you discharge the debt, so it's a total of 12 years for Chapter 13, and it's a total of 7 years for Chapter 7, okay? Whether you take that route or not, I tell people exhaust your remedy through the Fair Credit Reporting Act first, and maybe you can deter from taking one of these routes. Now, I kind of segued into this because I'm going to talk about the collectors here real quick, okay, under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Collectors are, most people are familiar with collectors, right? That'll give me an idea of who has bad credit. If you know what collector is, you have damage credit. But don't feel bad if you have bad credit. A lot of people come to my program, they all want to be all so secretive. Like, look here, bad credit, everybody's had bad credit one time or another in their life. And it's a lot of times not just your fault, okay? So you don't have to run around like the mafia or the CIA, oh gosh, you got a bad credit. Believe me, I'm not going to advertise your name, but nevertheless, don't be so ashamed of it where you're not going to attack it, okay? Now, the collectors are a result of original creditors that charge off debt, okay? Original creditor that charged off debt. Read my lips, okay? Original creditor that charged off debt. When an original creditor charges your debt off, you are no longer financially obligated to the debt. Okay? Do you understand me?
Yeah.
You know, okay, but you've been taught that you still owe the debt, which is an oxymoron, because like going into bankruptcy court, filing bankruptcy, and then start calling up your creditor saying, hey, I want to pay these debts. Wait a minute, I just filed bankruptcy on the discharge, so why am I entering into any type of payment option? Don't do that, folks. Okay, so if you're gonna go this route, when the collector calls you, or you and or your clients, let them know, sorry, the debt's not owed. Okay? And the reason why is because the original creditor is charged off, they received the tax credit, insurance, whatever fancy language you want to use, okay? I don't care what it is. I know what charge off means. I'm no longer financially obligated to the debt. Now, if the collector's calling me, then that's a problem, because maybe they don't know the laws as well as they should. So you can just regurgitate the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and Uniform Commercial Code to them and let them know the debt's charged off. I know you bought the debt for a huge discount and you're coming after me for the debt. Okay? So what I want to do is intervene on your behalf using my credit restoration program and tell the collectors, tell the collectors to cease and desist in the form of what you call a validation of debt. Okay, in the middle of my car, you'll see BOD. It's not venereal disease. It's actually validation of debt. I kind of put that in an angle because I want people to know that, look here, this is in addition to the credit restoration service. And what we did was we kind of linked upon that by doing people's credit repair, because it stimulated the collectors to call you. Now, what do most people do when collectors call? You dodge them, you run, you don't answer the phone, don't answer that number. I tell people, answer it. Let's talk with them, okay? Put them on notice that you don't owe this debt. But if you keep running, you're going to obligate yourself to the debt. They want you to do that, because if you ignore them for 30 days of the letter or exhibit that they give you, then it becomes a real debt. So stop ignoring them and running and hiding from them. Okay, let's submit a validation of debt to them, and 9 times out of 10, they'll cease and desist. Now, 90% satisfaction rate with validation of debts, 60 to 80% satisfaction with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Still high odds, okay? You still have a lot of options here to your advantage. So I'm going to issue a validation of debt to the collector because you don't owe them. The original creditor is charged off. The collector is going to call you to demand payment. They're going to use some very, very aggressive language, okay? And they have reinstituted. I'm sorry.
And scare tactics.
Oh yeah. They're very aggressive, believe me. And they have reinstituted or re-implemented the the creditor's prison. So don't believe the hype when people tell you that there's no creditor's prison. They just re-implemented those or reinstituted them. And they used to be laws from back in the 1800s where they locked people up for debts that they didn't pay. Well, they'll lock you up for a frivolous debt with the collectors if you don't pay. They're starting that back up. They're doing it in some states right now, okay? It's not full-fledged, but nevertheless, people should be aware of that, okay? So don't ignore these debts, specifically from collectors, okay? Now, the validation of debt does work in this particular instance. Now, anybody have any questions on that? I'm going fast because I don't have a lot of time here, okay? Okay, now, the other 2 steps I do is the Federal Trade Commission follow-up letter. That means if the credit reporting agency does not respond in 30 days to your plea or your dispute, then ideally what happens? I know some of you know, they told you. It all falls off, right? That's what they told you. It doesn't happen like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't happen like that. So we've implemented this program called the FTC follow-up letter, Federal Trade Commission follow-up letter. And that does what if the credit reporting agency does not respond, if the credit reporting agency does not respond within a given time frame, which is usually 30 business days, then we'll send that Federal Trade Commission follow-up letter out to the Federal Trade Commission and get them involved in the process of helping the credit reporting agencies to respond to the disputes, or just delete everything that we disputed, okay? And then cease and desist. I don't like cease and desist, but I know some people don't like the collectors to call you at work, okay? So they're only calling other people, whatever, but you want them to contact you. You want them to call you either on your cell phone, your residence, or some other way, but maybe not at work. I'll use the cease and desist in that format. But I never want to use it in the point where they just stop communication with you altogether. The reason why is because I want them to communicate with you so that we can issue the validation of debt. If they call you, we'll tell them, I don't do business over the phone, send it to me in writing. Don't do business over the phone. Don't start running your mouth talking about I want to settle this debt or we're going to work out something, okay? Just tell them, send it to you in writing, and you'll be more than happy to settle this matter. Don't say pay, say settle the matter. Because you say pay, that gets them excited, and then they start saying, well, I won't need to send a letter, let's go ahead and start working out a payment plan. We don't want to do that. when they send it to you in writing, then we'll issue a validation of debt based on the documentation that they sent to you. Okay? Whew. All right. For those of you who know me, I was really quick, wasn't it? All right. All right.
You're always good.
Thank you, hon. Thank you. Okay. Any question on it? Any questions before I sit down here?
What was that settled to settled to?
Oh, if a collector calls you, want to tell them that I don't do business over the phone. I'll give you time to write it. I don't do business over the phone. Please send it to me in writing, and I will be more than happy to settle this matter. No recording of me, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. Pete Fortunale did a presentation the other night. I guess they told him you shouldn't record him, so I love to be recording. Record everything I say. Okay, so you got that verbiage down pat? Okay, William Crowley, 727-798-3092. Everybody got my card? Real quick. Anybody know John O'Leary? Oh, yeah. Okay, John O'Leary, I was just inquiring about him because he's working on my website, but he did pass earlier this week. I don't know how many people know it or not, but he did pass it earlier this week. His wife called me the other day. So John O'Leary's a great guy. He's working on my website. So get in touch with me if you want to go out to the funeral or whatever they do. John O'Leary did my website though. It's www.badcredithistoryrepaired.com. I'm happy to do the whole thing. I'll talk to you about that. I'll tell you. Badcredithistoryrepaired.com. That's what gets me on the sort of close to the front page of Google when I use the whole word. Okay, I hate it, but anyway, www.badcredithistoryrepaired.com. Write that down on the back of my card. Badcredithistoryrepaired, past tense.com. Because I'm no longer using this website. The website on front of the card may still be active, but I'm using the one that John O'Leary gave me. I seen a hand up there.
You said there was a fourth stage? I wrote down 3.
Okay.
The fourth stage?
Oh yeah, the disputing the negative information on the credit report, using the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Then I deal with the collectors with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, utilization of the
And then
validation of
follow-up
debt.
letter?
Federal Trade Commission follow-up letter, and then cease and desist.
Oh, okay, cease and desist.
Okay. I didn't talk about CPN numbers, but call me and I'll talk to you more about that. Don't do a CPN number, folks. Oh, pretty. This lady, she's going to ask me a question. She into my program, she doesn't follow any of the directions. Go ahead, Brittany.
So when you get these letters, should we just shred them?
Huh? Yeah,
you
right.
get these just
Yeah, that's what I told her. What I tell you with the collection letter. You're going to turn that collection letter over to me, right? If you get the collection letter, turn it over to me. Don't shred it. Don't throw it in the trash or anything. And Pretty been knowing me for years. She's been to numerous presentations of mine. And what does she do when she gets the letter? Chunks in the trash or shreds it. So
Yeah, of course.
I'm just picking on it though.
With a blessing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it. Oh, go ahead.
Wait, actually, I work with William, and we have issue with our credit. And after we had it processed, they clear some of our stuff, and it only works like 3 months. And right now I have a question because the bank is asking us, how come that that amount is not appearing to our credit report anymore? So they want proof.
The bank wants proof that the information that's on the credit report is gone now. They want proof. You don't have to give the bank any proof. Tell them to call the credit reporting agency if they want to. But if you want to be direct with them, just tell them I disputed the information and it was reported correctly to the credit reporting agency. Therefore, it was removed. Now, if they want to reinsert it, then they want to reinsert it by going through the proper procedures of Fair Credit Reporting Act. You'd be more than happy to oblige their inquest or their request. But they need to contact you to verify the information is true and correct before they put on your report. Doesn't that make sense, folks? Yes. I mean, because a lot of that information is not true. They might be mixed file error.
So you're just wondering, because we worked with them for 3 months, and then when we came back and asked for a refi or a amount for money, and then they said, how come this one is not appearing anymore? They said because
talk to me out direct about talk to me about that because I want to see. I'll talk about that. Okay. Wait, oh gosh. Okay. This one.
I just want to know. I got a debt collector, and then I don't know if they're true or not. I just read them letter and paid for it, and then it will somehow get lost somewhere, and then later they call me that. I didn't pick up the call, and after 6 months, they have a bad credit on my credit report.
Yeah, but the reason why the reason why you shouldn't pay these collectors is because you got one negative mark already from the original creditor, right? Okay, you default on the debt. So now your penalty for non-payment is 7 years of being on your credit report. That's your penalty for non-payment. So you're being punished right there. Now the collector enters the scene, And if you do business with them, what you've done is purposely re-aged an account, okay? 7 years, clock start ticking from day to last activity for 7 years on your credit report. That's one negative mark. Now the collection agency comes in. Now if you start doing business, let's say in the 5th year of it already being on your credit report, you got 2 years left, you just re-age that account because now you're starting to deal with the collector. You got double negative entry on your credit report, and now they get to keep on for additional 7 years from the date of last activity. And if you set up a payment plan, it stays on for 7 years from the date of the payment plan when the payment plan terminates.
They sell later on. They sell this debt to another creditor, and are they going to get a new report and putting into your this 7 year or this is one transaction?
No, that's going to re-age the account, so it's going to be a new entry on your credit report.
So they keep selling, so you can never.
Right. That's why I tell you, if you do a validation of debt, that'll pretty much stop them because they're going to put a red flag by your name. Because they got 100 ignorant people out there that pay debts. Okay, they don't need you. They got millions and millions of people to just pay these collection accounts. Okay, so they'll put a red flag by your name and say, "Wait a minute, no, this lady did issue a validation of debts." That's a serious matter, validation of debt, because you can take them into court and sue them for damages. Okay, and it's much more aggressive than utilization of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Okay, that's $1,000 a day. This can be up to $5,000 a day. So,
but if you already paid them, can you help or not?
That's why I say don't pay them, because they'll take one collection company will take it, and then they'll sell it to another collection company. They'll take your money, and they'll sell it to another collection company, and another collection company will double dip. They'll try to come and get money again.
And it might be the same
So
company.
yeah, but don't just stop paying collection, okay, folks? Don't do that. Don't pay a collection, okay? But don't ignore them either. Oh, hold on, Lisa. You had something on that?
No, I'm just going to add to it. There's another way to say re-age an account, like what's going on with me right now. The bank was bought out, and they reactivated an old default from like 3 years ago. So I brought William back on the scene again to go after them to get. I mean, it's even a brand new account number too. So now I've got 2 red marks. So
they're slave, but we know their game, okay? So just get in touch with me if you have that type of problem, because we know what to do with these folks, okay?
So once you paid,
I have a question. I've been waiting. Thank
I'm trying to get let me go ahead, okay? Go ahead.
Good grief. We have a contract with you. If we go on with you, but how does your fee work? Like, what if somebody takes an hour versus somebody totally jacked up takes 8 hours? How is your fee?
Can I answer that question first?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Go ahead. Let me share something with you. Too often, this is what we do. We're worried about what something's going to cost us now, not the benefit that we're going to benefit from it. The man is super reasonable, and he's working with us, with all the IMC students. So I do recommend, unless you have an 845, you don't need his services. And even then, you might still need him, okay? But everybody here, especially investing, is one of our most powerful tools. With credit, it makes it a little easier. Without credit, it makes it a little tougher. So we're going to work on both sides, with creative financing and with good credit. It's part of what we do. So everybody here needs self-directed IRA or a SEP or whatever. I mean, whatever you and your account. Everybody needs to work on their credit. So you should have both of these cards and work on, okay? But he is very reasonable.
Oh, good.
I noticed that you're so passionate about what you're doing.
Am I really? What made you passionate? Well, I'm 51 years old, and I started after I dropped out of law school. I'm a proud law school dropout back in '83. Yeah, I'm a proud law school dropout back in '83. That's what made me start to pursue the gray areas of the law that they don't tell us about. And so I mean, some of you know me. I used to run a group, and we dealt with constitutional, uniform commercial code, validation of debt, discharge of debt, adverse possession. We dealt with a lot of different things. And so the so-called authorities kind of ran a raid on my group, and we had to discontinue for a while. But I was running about 40 to 50 people every Wednesday night. A lot of people in here used to come out to my meetings. So I'm very passionate about the law. So been passionate since about 1983 when I dropped out of law school.
We're going to take a 10-minute break for bathroom.
This gentleman,
I'm interrupted by a lady. But anyway, let me just finish.
Okay.
So if you already paid, can you do anything or not?
Yeah, I can still, because the negative mark still needs to be removed. The double negative mark still needs to be removed. So yes, I can still do something if you pay. But I'm trying to tell you now, stop the bleeding. Don't. You can use that money to invest in the projects that Mike's talking about instead of throwing away frivolously on those collection accounts.
I think she's asking, can she get that money back if she doesn't?
Oh, no,
No, I don't want the money back. I just want the record. I feel that
You paid it,
it's
right?
worth to pay money because, you know, like for a couple $100, but if your credit is bad, you lost tens of thousands of money.
Right.
All right, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I'll ask you. Sure? Yeah, I can ask you. Here, everyone can take a break.
We would like to know.
Okay, here's the issue. So, this is because I'm a bank examiner. I've seen this issue before, where they charged off a loan and did some shadow accounting to hide they charged it off. That is, once it's charged off, they can't get the person's not legally obligated to pay them anymore.
Right.
Okay.
That's true. Now, make sure you understand that, okay? I like to use more understand so you understand. The original creditor charged off, they get paid. So you won't hear from them again, okay? You will not hear from them again. I mean, if they do, it's a violation of federal law if you hear from them again, but 100% of the time, you're never going to hear from them again. They're going to then turn around, which is illegal, they're going to sell it. They're selling an account that's already satisfied. It's all based on deception, okay? You sell it to the collector. Now, the collector's in agreement with them, hey, I can use your name to try to collect on this debt, right? Yeah, you can use my name. I can't pursue it any longer. So, but the original creditor, once they charge off, you will never hear from them again.
Now, in that situation, they'll still try to get payment, even though they charge it off and create a shadow account to still keep it on their books, so it doesn't really change that.
What actually?
That's you can't actually under these laws, so you can't actually do that. They're not legally obligated to pay you. And what's the punishment if someone comes and repeats that?
Wait, for the collector you're talking about?
Yeah, the bank charges off the loan,
Right.
creates a shadow account to hide that, but still tries to collect from the customer.
Oh, well, the bank's not going to do that. The original creditor, I mean, there's severe penalties for that. But I've never, in my 15 years of doing this, never seen the original creditor charge it off and then try to come back after you for the debt. Okay, I've never seen it because the original creditor, I mean, they receive the tax write-off, but the way they do it, well, they actually are indirectly coming back after you because they're using the collectors to do it. Okay, they're using these collectors. Now, you got to understand the difference between the internal collector and the external collector. The internal collectors do work for the bank, so the bank hasn't charged it off if they're using their own internal collections. But if you're like unclear on it, then you're into my program. The way we can find out if issue a validation of debt. And that'll bring all the honesty out of the woodwork, okay? That makes them deal with you on fair playing ground. Good
One
question.
last question, quick question.
One last question, and one last question, and one last question. Go ahead.
You deal only with personal credit, not business credit?
I do a business credit
You
as
do
well.
business credit? Okay.
Yes.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and take.
Hey, yeah.
Freedom.
Let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll go ahead and.
Leticia, sana yung ano mo? Wala na. Did you cook it? Where are you?
Yeah, I heard about this income place. We were gonna go out there. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
many times have we said, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that, right? I say, everybody knows the story about Bill Gates,
Here.
his 4 friends, right? 2 of them said no to what, $500? When he asked 4 people, hey, if you give me $500 each, we're gonna do this company. 2 of them said, no, I don't think so. 2 of them said, let's do it. They're still part of his board. Right? 2 of them get up in the morning and go, I can't believe I told them. Every day. What about if we did things different? Okay, what about if we did things different? We're going to talk about how I do things different, how to defeat the odds, how to overcome. If you haven't figured it out, we're living in different times. What we do now has to be different what we did 10, 20 years ago and 30 years ago, okay? I'm going to go ahead and go through some of this stuff really quick, right? We're about working together. That's what we're about. Investors Mentorship Club is about opening doors to investors. Most of you have been here with us before, so I'm going to go through. I quote it a lot, John Dewey, education is not preparation for life, education is life. The more you know, the more powerful you get. Knowledge is power. Grasping the old, and the old is hard to grasp because it's different now, but we're going to do it and we're going to make it new. This information obviously is intended to be educational. I'm not giving you any legal advice. I'm not giving you any accounting advice. I'm not giving you any financial advice. I'm not even giving you marital advice. Right? I have to do that myself. Our goal is to take our investing to a higher level. We're not going to settle for common ways. We're just going to do things I do. If you've been around me for more than a week, you know I do things different. Okay? We want you to be a participator. You can stand around and be a spectator all you want. You can watch football games all day long, baseball, tennis, whatever you want to watch. Until you don't get in the game, you're not going to be a part of it. We're obviously, you hear somebody like Scott Maurer who's talking about what you can do with the little bit you put away. We do it in a group. We do it as a mentorship. How many of you have been to a real estate seminar where they're trying to sell you something at the end of the seminar? And I know a few of us have paid out a lot of money in the past, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of mentorship that they gave you over the phone, that they gave you on videos, on books, on CDs. And then 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you never see these people again. And some learn, but most don't, okay? That's not what we do. We don't sell anything. We want you to be a participator. Well, I was just talking outside. I mean, teamwork makes the dream work. I was just talking to Gian, I think she's back there. And we're talking about, we're doing a 78-bed assisted living facility. Now, how many of you have been and are part of the McMullen Booth project? Stand up. No. Stand up. Okay? Thank you. Sit. All right. These folks are incredible. I feel bad sometimes. I'm going to go out there and help out. I was talking to a couple of the guys yesterday, and they said to me, you don't need to come here. Go find our next project. Go find the next funding for it. But I like to work with my hands. I like to work. But they get it that everybody has, a specific skill here. And what we're going to do is, for instance, take Leticia. Leticia is one of our partners and a nurse. Well, what do you think she's going to do in the ALF? She's not going to do the drywall. She's got skills. Tony's not here. Tony's not going to do the nursing. He's got skills. If you haven't seen Tony's work, you need to. If you have not been to, how many of you have been to the McMullen Booth property when we had just looked at it? Some of you, right? you gotta go look at it now. If you have not seen the property, it's like day and night, and wait till you see it in 2-3 weeks, okay? But it's about teamwork. Get in the game. We talk about transactions, we talk about multiplication. I use this, I share it a lot. If I said to you, if you've not heard me in the past, and you probably heard it, how many of you would take $100,000 cash today to invest over $1 if you could double that dollar for the next 30 days? How many of you would take the $100,000? Raise your hand. Okay, I got a couple of people who took the $100,000. I'm going to show you why we take the dollar and we double it by itself for 30 days. In the first 10 days, that dollar goes simply to $512. In the first 10 days, we would take that dollar, double it by itself, and in 10 days you have $512. In 20 days, does anybody have any idea how much it is? It's $512,000 just in 20 days. In 30 days, it'll blow your mind. It's $512 million. Wow. Now, my job is to show you how to double the money at a particular day. And that's what we do in transactions. You know, many of you have heard people that invest in Forex. I do Forex. Everybody know what Forex is? Yeah. Okay. I do the market, I do all that stuff, but I do so little of it because I did lose almost $500,000. But, and that was not fun. But I do real estate, and how many of you have heard people that buy a house and rehab it and they go in there and they tear it up, and we're doing that one right now. But how many times do you want to do that? You want to do that for the rest of your life? Because that's a full-time job, isn't it? I met a couple of guys who were in a really good position. They're one's 28, one's 35. The 28-year-old said to me, "But you know, I've made like $1.2 million in the last 11 years. That's pretty good." He says, "I do 3 to 5 of these a month." So we did the math. If he just did 3 of them, he's doing 36 of them a month, a year. For times 11 years. But he's good. He says he's comfortable, he lives good. He's a millionaire. His partner, a little more, about 2.5. Same properties. He just has a little more money, so he gets a little bit more of a cutback. What we want to do is want to do different. We want to do it whether you do it in days, months, or years. That's completely up to you. Whether you want to get involved, some of you I'll see one time, I won't see you for a year. Some of you I see monthly, and some of you we're together almost every day. Okay? So that the participation amount that you want to put in is really up to you. Okay? We do it real simple. You've been to seminars or to anything where what people do is they only want the people with a lot of money. Because the people with a lot of money can help you do big projects. What about us, the little guys? Everybody's a little guy once upon a time. Or still is. So if all we did that's an airport. The airport's right there. If all we did, there's 36, almost 38 people, the 2 that left. If all we did, how many of you have been to the Lakeland property, the hotel in Lakeland? Raise your hand if you have, okay. It's a hotel we're turning into a 78-bed facility. The project, by the time we get done with it, will have about $1.2 to $1.4 million into it. 78 beds at, for you mathematicians, 78 beds, $1,600 a bed. 78 times 16. How's that? Chris, come on, Chris.
Roughly 120. Roughly 120.
120 what? 78 times 16. 126, 128, something like that?
124,000.
115?
Yeah,
All right, 115,000 a month. That's not too bad, is it? 50% of that, 55 goes to gross expenditures. So we have about 45% pre-tax. That's not too bad. That would be approximately what, 60,000, 57,000 in income? Now, how many of you can write a check for $1.2 million for the project? Right, but how about this? 36 people, averaging $50,000? Can we do it that way then? Now watch this. If all we did was take and invested $5,000 in a project, our goal this year, Investors Mentorship, is to turn it to $10,000. So we're going to take these numbers and we're going to work with $5,000. You tell me when you want to retire.
Couple more.
Our claim is this: 7 to 10 years. I don't care who you are. We're going to let you retire if you want to, because you might not want to. Multi-millionaire. Watch this. What we have? That would be 1 year, right? That would be 1 year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That would be $1 million right there. In 10 years, that's if you started with $5,000. Now, how are we going to do this? Power of duplication. Again, we know how it works, how powerful. You know, it's real easy to convert $40,000 into $80,000. I was just talking to somebody in the group. They just got a property on the beach. Where is he? Celso just got a property on the beach, right there. What's 180? 220, okay. And you got it for how much? 110. So that means he can go from here to here. Am I right with that one property?
There's only 10 in rehab.
10 in rehab. Is that good? Yeah. Those don't happen every day. But when they happen, you got to jump on them right there on the spot. So it happens. You can take this concept from here to here. What about this? Can they take that 220 and turn it to 400,000? Sure. Whether it's one property or four. Now, the key is to keep increasing on the numbers. And I'm going to show you how in the middle. We just talked about the 4th Street Hotel. You've been to 4th Street Hotel. Raise your hand if you've been to the 4th Street Hotel. Okay. 4th Street Hotel, we're doing 50-bed assisted living facility. By the time we get done, we'll have about $1 million in there. Now, I can't do all these by myself. But I don't need to do them all by myself. We have groups that are doing it. 50 times 1,600. Oh, in case you guys don't know this, I just had a social worker, Sari, what's that her name? Sari? S-A-R-I, Sari. Last week she was at a facility. She brought 3 people into us, bringing 2 more people to our facility in Seminole. She said, if you convert that hotel on 4th Street to an ALF, now we were converting it to a hotel, back to a hotel, and she said, if you convert it to an ALF, I'll go ahead and hook you up with the people at the VA, the people at St. Anthony's Hospital, and the All Children's Hospital with the directors so that you could fill this place back up. Because it used to be an ALF. I said, okay. Okay, so, and I'm meeting with her on Thursday or something. Okay, I don't remember when I did it, but I am meeting with her. But one of you probably can. But I would tell if somebody raised their hand and said, Mike, I'll go ahead and do that hotel by myself, I'll say no. Because this is not about you, this is about us. I said, why don't we find out? Someone's got 5, someone's got 10, someone's got 20. Everybody, this is our CPA, in case, who does not know Yara? Yara is our CPA in our corporation. So we put together a corporation, everybody is in there. What is our greatest fear of investing? Losing money. Okay. So we put your name on that corporation. You're part of the board. How many of you have been to one of the board meetings? Raise your hand if you've been to our board meeting. About half of you. Okay. And you have say-so. But we're not going to have a say-so over color and carpet and things like that because we're going to get rid of all the little things out. Is that okay? So we can move. So we can move pretty quick. Okay. You can do one by yourself, but why don't we do it as a group? Hotels converting it into ALFs. We have 3 of them right now. If you don't know, you get between $1,500 and $3,500 per bed per month per person. Okay? Buildings, you can do buildings. Very rare, but we could do them with 0 down. I mean, there's no limit. That's our facility. How many of you have been to this facility? Some of you, right? You've been there? You've never been there. That's our 20-bed facility.
Where's that?
That one's in Seminole. That's on Starkey and 86th Avenue. You were just there, right? Sweet, right? I already have a reservation, room 7 and 8, for me and my wife when we get to that age. And I told Leticia, I know all your tricks. I want my meds, I want my food, I want everything. Okay? Beautiful facility. She helps us there. She's one of our managers, and it is a beautiful facility. And we make them all look like that on the inside. Pier Hotel, a different color now. It's yellow, gold, and some other color if you haven't seen it.
Red.
Oh, the commercial. We should have played the commercial. Yes. If you invest $1,000, how much do you get a year?
1,000.
If you invest $10,000, how much do you get? Our goal is to get you no less than 25. There you go. If you invest $100,000, you get 100. Our goal is to get you no less than 25% return secure with the real estate that you are a part owner and a participator in, so you get to see everything that's happening. The purpose behind it, it is a mentorship, except not a 2-week. It's all year long. We do it 1 year at a time, and you're involved with us according to your ability. You can take that into consideration, according to your skills. Okay. And it is classes in. You will be learning a lot of things. Does your head spin sometimes, Celso? Okay, I mean, I kid you not, right? Harold's one of our new partners. He's just getting started up with us, and he's about to get his head spun. And there's no sleeping allowed because your mind is thinking and thinking and thinking all night long, and you get up in the middle of the night and you're still thinking. It's a mentorship. I coach you. You guys, we work together. It's not big I, little you. We work together on this thing. This is how we do it. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, how we do it. I'm going to go ahead and bypass this for a second because it's freezing in here. It is. And I told them to turn it down. If you, raise your hand if you've done a single family home all by yourself. If you've done a project, you, a friend, or a couple of you have done it, okay? And you take and you put, traditionally what you do is you spend, say $60,000 on a property that you sold for $80,000, right? That's a $20,000 profit, right? Right?
Yes.
No.
Wrong. You gotta pay taxes, right? And you sold it 3 months later, or 4 months later. We know it's not a, and you put $10,000 in rehab. So that's a $10,000 profit negative. That is a $7,000 profit. It took you 3-4 months to do that. Why is that not a $20,000 profit? Chris, tell me why. That is not
a $20,000.
Why it's not a $20,000 profit?
Well, first of all, besides the fact that was what you actually gained on it, but you worked at 10 rehab, like you just said.
So we're working on this one, just this one.
Just this one?
Yeah.
Well, you of course have to pay taxes on it. Well, I guess it's everything you just mentioned. You have to pay taxes on it because you had it's capital gains.
You see this right here, that rehab? You cannot deduct that as, that becomes a depreciation. So you can't say, well, I got $70,000 in the property and I'm only paying taxes. No. You have to wait a year and a day to be able to be not categorized as a, does everybody know the difference between a real estate investor versus a real estate dealer? Dealer, bad thing. Stay away from dealer status, okay? But if some people do it. They take them, they buy them, they flip them. You have to do what you got to do, right? Well, I'm gonna show you how to be a dealer without worrying about it. So that you can, a real estate dealer, so you don't have to worry about it, okay? And I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do different. Okay, so we hold on to this property for a year, and it's a $80,000 property. What's the rent? The going rent for an $80,000 property, because you don't want to be classified as a real estate dealer, so you're going to hold on to it for a year and a day.
800.
600.
800.
800.
Let's just say, let's go with the big one. Let's go with $800 a month, right?
Yeah.
And
Insurance.
wrong, wrong, because you still got insurance and you got maintenance. So let's say 500 is a joke. If you borrowed on it, let's say you borrowed 50,000, right? Then you got to pay what, a $500 mortgage? So you have a plus 300 minus taxes and insurance, right? And maintenance. So you're about $100 bucks? That's a lot of work for $100, isn't it? You go to yard, I can do that on a yard sale. How many of you done a yard sale and I made $1,800 on a yard sale? But the normal, $100, $200 on a yard sale, without putting the investment, without, am I right?
Yes.
We're talking about working smarter, not harder. That's a lot of work for $100. Okay, how about this? Same property. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What we do is we're going to convert it into a 6-bed assisted living facility. Are we doing that right now in McMullen Booth, Downing Street, right? Let's just say we can get, let's say we can get $2,000 a month per bed per month. Is what? $12,000? Is $12,000 better than 800? Somebody, isn't it, right? Okay. Now, yeah, you know what? It's a little bit more intense, labor intensive here. We have to get Leticia, a nurse, and we have to get Tony and Celso and a couple of others to help, right? And we need to get an accountant involved. And let's say that 75% of that is debt service. How much does that leave us a month?
4.
3,000.
Come on.
3,000.
3,000. So we have plus 3,000. Is 3,000 better than 300?
Yes.
That's an actual 3,000 because that's net.
But
Now,
your
check this out.
investment is higher.
Excuse me?
Your investment is not 60K.
No, I'm going to get there. But wait, there's more. Okay, if you did that property by yourself, Gian, it would be $60,000, $70,000. But what we're going to do is we're going to do do this in a PowerPoint presentation, right? Okay, I'll have it next time. We're gonna get 8 of us, 25,000, right? And so we're gonna raise, this thing is worth, say what, 350? We got 8 of us investing $200,000 into an investment that maybe some of you can do by yourself, but we're doing it in the group. And this is what we're gonna do though. Because I believe in having my cake and eat it too. I like cake and ice cream, I cannot lie. And especially ice cream cake from Carvel. I just want to say that. Okay, so see what happens is we have to put, it costs us about $10,000 to run the facility, so 8,000 somewhere in there. So we're going to put, let's just say 75,000 of it in an escrow account, which we have to do by law, right, Leticia? Do we have any other people that have taken the, yeah, there we go. We have another administrator, have another one. Raise your hand, and then we have another one. Have you got your results?
I haven't took the picture.
Oh, we're taking that. Oh, Don, It's taking the test today. Have you heard from him at all? Yeah, he called me, yeah, we talked a little bit, he got a flat tire in his, you know what, I'm gonna have to share something for you. Yeah, he got a nail. I want you to shut that off for a second. I didn't say speaking, I was afraid of speaking, but skeptical from day one. Oh, Dad, not me, I'm going to law school and I'm going to do this and you know what? He said, well, Dad, now him and my second oldest are asking me, well, Dad, because they see. And they see when you grow. And they see as you flourish. And they understand that, wow, this is different. And it is very different. But you know what? It requires work. Does it not require work? I tell you what, I applaud all those that were at Downing Street. I went in one day and the house was all there. I came in back 2 days later and the house was gone. I'm like, what happened to the house? They stripped the whole thing, getting ready to put a new kitchen, new bathroom. Teamwork. You see, if I'd done that by myself, I haven't made it to the house. But the team made it work, because teamwork makes the dream work. Okay?
Can you look at the backyard?
I haven't been there. I'm gonna go when I leave here. I'm gonna go. Were you there? Okay. And you know what? Oh man, I tell you what, Al, how long you been a nurse?
Oh, jeez, 15 years.
I went over there, he had his jeans on, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm going, I hope it doesn't hurt his hands or something. This is me thinking, oh man, I'm about to hurt these guys, right? But you know what? They know what it takes. The 9 to 5 job doesn't get it. You can. You know what? I did it. Who hasn't done it? But it doesn't get it anymore. It just don't. It pays the bills, right? And you clock in, you clock out. You clock in at work, right? You're surviving, okay? So we're going to take this $200,000. We're going to put you on that corporation. We're going to make you part of that board, and you're going to be a part of this project. 6 months later, that escrow money that the department, the Agency for Healthcare Administration says, if you're going to do this ALF, you're going to put money in the bank, and you're going to leave it there, and you're going to make sure that those elderly folks cannot be thrown out in the street for at least 7 months. That's their guarantee. They know if you make it past that 7 month, you're okay. I don't know where they get the calculations from, but that's where it is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make this property give us $2,000 to $3,000 a month of triple net profit. It's going to take about 6-7 months, depending on the area and so on. Okay, but we're going to take that $75,000 when it gets released 6 months later, and we're buying this property for $60,000 cash. It's going to sell for $100,000. This is our bank right here. This is our bank. We're going to put that $100,000 in the bank when we sell this single-family home. You will all be a part of it. This property disappears because we're going to sell it, right? Everybody understands that? Mm-hmm. And we're going to do another single-family home, which is going to cost us about $60,000. Now, what is our goal? Our goal is to double our investments, right? From here to here takes 1 year. Why do I say 1 year? Because if I tell you 3 months, on the 93rd day, you're going to say, hey, Mike, what's going on? Actually, you'll call me the 91st day in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Mike.
You're not going to answer anyway.
You call my son. He'll answer. Okay. We'll get it before the end of the night, I promise. And now check this out. On the third property, we're going to rehab it. We're going to sell it. Now on the first one, we're rehabbing and selling it, right? Rehabbing and selling it. On this third property, we're going to rehab it. We're going to sell it. And we're going to keep it. Somebody please explain to me how we're going to do that. Come on, Value, tell me.
We're gonna buy it and then we're gonna resell it back to someone in the group.
Okay, check this out. Let's just play pretend. We're gonna pretend I have bad credit, and I'm gonna pretend that Celso's got great credit. Okay? And the property is going to be bought by the project. This is me, this is Celso, bad credit, good credit. We pick up this property in the name of our corporation, who then takes that contract. If I lose you, you gotta stop me, you gotta understand this. Bought by the company, assign the contract to me, and then I sell it to Celso. Celso closes on it, I get a check done in escrow by a lawyer, and that money puts us at $160,000. Now, Celso takes that property and gives it back to our corporation. And then we sell it owner finance. We get another, say, owner finance with, say, $20,000 down or whatever. And that brings us to $160,000. Does everybody see that?
You lost me.
Yeah.
Okay. We did the first property, we bought it for 60, sold it for 100, so we made 40,000, right? So we are at $100,000. Everybody good there?
Yes.
I'll tell you where I lost. Then we take that same $100,000, we bought another house for 60, and we sold it for 100,000, but we sold it to ourselves.
Okay.
Does everybody understand how we did that? I took the contract and I gave it to Yara. Yara went and financed it. Some of you have good credit, some of you have bad credit, some of you have money, some of you don't, some of you get skills, some of you don't. That doesn't mean that we can't be working together.
This is where you lost me, Mike. You got the corporation, the whole project, right? Giving to the person with the bad credit. What do you mean by give? You're gonna be selling it to that person?
This is Corporation XY. That's us. We're going to do the contract in the name of my corporation, Corporation X. All right? I'm going to sell that property to Corporation C. She's going to close on the property. I get paid the money for the property, the $100,000. That $100,000 at closing table gets assigned back to the corporation, and it goes back into our bank account. All we're doing is selling to ourselves. And then we're going to do a owner finance for somebody who, A, in the group that either wants the property or somebody outside the group. Some of you need owner financing, some of you don't. Some of you want a house, some of you don't. You should all want 20 houses. But, really, and that's part of the project. But then we get 20% down payment, and it brings us to $160,000. Does everybody understand that now? Okay, we can sit one-on-one and I can explain a little bit more. Now, we did that because over here, we have $25,000 invested, and I'm sleeping good because that's where that money is being secured. Okay, now check this out. What about this $2,000 or $3,000? What are we going to do with that? I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that right now. You see this little single-family home that's worth about $50,000? We're going to buy 8 of these, one each. We're going to buy 8 of those. Owner finance, lease purchase option, contract for deed, agreement for deed, whatever, as long as they sign it over to us. Why? It's going to cost between $2,000 and $5,000 to buy those. Where's that money coming from?
Escrow.
Right? Now remember, all you did was invest one time. You're not investing multiple times. One time. This is paying for this. Now, what else are we going to do? Now, this here, this property that we're keeping that as a group portfolio. Because I'm going to make you millionaires, whether you want it or not. The property that we're buying in a group, we're keeping. So that you can't sell it. You can if you get all 8 people to agree on selling it. What are the chances? Well, I want my money. I like my cash flow. And the other one says, yeah, but I would like my... I promise you, it's not going to be easy to get 8 people to agree on selling a property that's cash flowing. Now, check this out. This property goes to you personally. Because that's where you take, and you call Scott and you say, Scott, I need a self-directed IRA. And you're buying that property and putting it into the self-directed IRA. That's your retirement. That is your retirement. That's what you were asking about.
I thought you couldn't do that though.
As long as you don't stay in it.
You can, because it has this property here, you're putting a down payment, which you're gonna put $6,500 a year away, okay? You're gonna contribute $6,500 and you're gonna put, say, $5,000 of a down payment on the property. So I'm gonna let you buy it with your $5,000, I'm just gonna give you back your $5,000 so you could go ahead and put it back next year in your perfectly legal. You're gonna use the money that you're gonna contribute from work, and I'm gonna say, look, this property is for you. And you're gonna go, okay, I'm gonna buy it into my self-directed IRA. It still owes now. They'll charge you a little more because they're gonna take the payments and they're gonna pay the mortgage, but it goes into the self-directed, and it has a balance of $47,000 because you bought it for 3 or whatever, okay? And just forget about that property. You have a management company and it's being paid for, and it takes 10 years, 12 years, whatever, however long it takes to get paid off. But when it gets paid off, and it's worth, in say 10 years, it's worth, say, $60,000, is that tax-free money? Yes. Yes, they've been doing it for a while. Some of us have been doing it for a long time, okay? Now, check this out. Here's one more thing, because when we rehabbed, sold, and kept this property, and we held a mortgage on it, everybody know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna make, I don't know, what, $200-300 a month on the mortgage? This is owner finance. How many of you know that owner finance makes a little bit more money than if you bought it from the bank? I just did one at 4%. If I did an owner finance, it would be at 8 or 10% minimum. So you have a little bit money left over. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do 8 TLCs. What's TLC? Not tender loving care.
Tax lien certificate.
Tax lien certificates, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get everybody a certificate that's somewhere between 200 and 500. So those of you that are saying, I can't do any of this because all I have is $1,000. Well, you take that $1,000, you call Scott and you say, Scott, I need my self-directed IRA, and all I have is $1,000. So now you can do the first tax lien certificate. Get you in the game. I don't care where you start, whether you start at $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million. You just got to get started. Because if you don't get started, you'll never finish. Does everybody understand that? If you don't get started, you'll never finish. That was a commercial. Okay. So everybody gets one of these. So this property goes in there, and this goes in there. Everybody understands that? This is so that you, as we build a group portfolio, you build a personal portfolio. Everything you're learning here, you're supposed to copycat and do it. Okay? We're just doing it together. Some of you are going to pass all of us, and some of you are just going to hang out with us, and that's okay. Now, this is first year. Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. That's the first year. Now check this out. The greatest thing, and this is where, I met June a month and a half ago. Incredible woman. I don't want to take her thunder away, but she is an incredible woman. The stuff that she does, she's been training us on in-depth on crowdfunding. How many of you know what crowdfunding is? A few of you. Let's get ready. Check this out. Let's say that in year 1 we deal with $200,000 to $300,000. In year 2 we deal with, remember we're doubling everything, $400,000, $500,000, $6,000 deals. Does everybody understand what we did here before I go on? Okay, check this out. Year 1, from now, April to April 2014. That's how long I'm saying it's going to take us. It may take us less. It may take us more. Now, I don't have $25,000. Okay. You have $2,000? How about this? You have $5,000? How about $10,000? Now, why do you want to do this? Watch this. At the end of the year, we have $160,000 in the bank. Right? We know where we got that money from, right? Right. And we have $147,000 invested here. Does everybody see that? I made this 2, I made a 5 and a 10. There's $147,000 invested. My goal is to double your money. Uh-oh. My goal is to double your money. Did I do it? There's 100, can I write a check for everybody back here? Minus what this costs, right? And you're now in year 2. This is year 2 now. Year 2, we're doing a 10-bed facility. That's, I don't know, $750,000. We're doing $100,000 homes that are worth $150,000. We're doing still 8 of these each that are worth, I don't know, $80,000. And we're still doing 8 of these that are $500 to $1,000. Does everybody see how we doubled everything? Mm-hmm. Now, year 2, at the end of year 1, I go to Sharon. I say, Sharon, you doubled your money. Your $25,000 is now $50,000. Here's a check for $25,000, and here's your $25,000, and she's at the $50,000 level. Does she have to come up with new money? How many of you have had a retirement account and you rolled it over year after year after year after year and it hasn't done much? So now you took $25,000, a little bit of participation, and it's now at $50,000. And we're doing the very same thing. Yeah, but I put my money in there. Yeah, well, next year I'm going to have another class, and there's going to be a John and a Jane there who say, I want to do that. And they're going to take your spot here, and they're going to start their year 1, and your money will be allocated right there. And that's your 50. Guess what's going to happen? We're going to do the same process. This is a system. How many of you love going through the McDonald's? I love doing it. I don't eat much there, but I do eat the grilled chicken. I throw most of the stuff away and I eat the grilled chicken. And I go, watch this, honey. I go, there's usually 16, 17-year-olds working there, right? They're running a multi-billion-dollar company. They don't clean their rooms. They don't do their homework. I go, watch this. Have you done your homework? No, my wife says, no, you didn't do it. Your room clean. You know why? Because it's the truth. They've been taught to do this. And that's all they do. They don't know, they don't do their homework, they don't clean, they don't listen to their parents, they don't do anything, but they know how to make burgers, and they know how to make fries, and they know how to clean the table, because they were taught a system. So what we're doing is we're devising a real estate system, or you could go ahead and do 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 36 rehabs every year for the next 11 years. Now watch this. So we follow the same process every year. Do you see how easy it is to go from 80,000 to 160? Well, what about this? Check this out. What about from 2 million to 4 million? Can we do that? Yeah. Can we take $2 million using these would change. This would be a 50-bed facility, right? That would leave 20 to 30,000 a month. This would be a storage facility that would be, this would be 50, would be 3 million. This would be 1.5 million. This would be 1.5 million. Does everybody see it? These properties would be $500,000 property. Where do you find a $500,000 single-family home? On the beach. You find those properties that are $700,000 and $800,000, and they get foreclosed, and the group says, "Hey, we'll give you $500,000 cash."
Hey, sure.
And they'll take them. That's right.
I had a question.
Question.
Now, technically, we said we have $25,000 in the first project.
That's
and
if you
you're gonna
invest the $25,000.
Right. And then at the end of the year, you cut us another check for $25,000.
That's correct.
But that doesn't even count the self-directed IRA money that we can also invest in the group. Again, if you wanted to add more.
Now, you might, I tell you, there's no sleep. I'm telling you, why do you think I have bags under
50
mine?
to maybe 60.
I tell you why I got boxes under mine. No. So this works in year 2, works in year 3, it works at the 8 million, it makes it, but 7 to 10 years. How many years? It's 365 days multiplied by 7 or 10. Not 7 or 8 hours. What am I saying? Now, meanwhile, while you're doing this, you're doing your stuff on the side. You're learning, you just learn how to do this, so you go get your cousin and your friend, and we're partners. So now you can say, hey, Mike, can you tell me how to do, oh yeah, sure, come on, let me show you how to fill out the application. Let me show you how to get, how many of you know about youthnet.com?
LoopNet? Yeah.
Free,
LoopNet.
no, not LoopNet, YouthNet.
Oh, no.
YouthNet gives you free employees for up to 16 weeks. What do you think we get? I have a connection. I'll help you guys out. YouthNet.
Why?
Oh, like through the
Yeah. Youth. Have you ever seen the movie?
My cousin Vinny.
My cousin Vinny. YouthNet. Yeah. Did you say youth? Now, do you see how the system works? Let me tell you what happened to one of my students 2.5 months ago. I said to him, Y-O-U-T-H, youth. Yeah, youth is from a movie that I saw. A student said to me, well, why can't you just go right into a 200-bed facility? You can. Raise your hand if you ran a 100-bed facility, besides what he said. No one's done it. So why would you do something you've not done until you don't learn baby steps? And I said, don't do it. He lost his license. You cannot take over somebody else's license. He thought I was joking about that part. And after I found out, and took his license away. So we're going to do year 1, year 2, year 3, but we're going to do them in the order they go. Is it okay if I retire you in 7 years?
Please.
Or 4 years?
Please.
It depends though. It depends. For instance, where is retirement for you? Chris, wait a minute. I want you to hear this. Wait, Chris, wait. Chris, when I first met him, he said to me, well, I could retire with $2,500. Chris, how much money do you need to retire now?
$2,500.
Okay, now, how easy can he do one of these by himself and retire? He's got to do a couple in groups, and then he can go out and say to his cousin and his friend, hey, listen, you got 10,000, you got 20,000? Because I want you to copycat what I do. This is what I'm teaching you. We go to class. June's teaching me. What do you think I'm going to do with the stuff June's teaching me? I already told her what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to teach you guys. We're going to copy what she's doing so that you can do it. And let me show you how we're going to take that and work this plan. Does everybody understand this? Anybody that does not understand this, so I can elaborate a little bit more, and then I'm going to show you how crowdfunding is going to work into this. If you don't know what crowdfunding is, it means free money. Free money. Is it out in here or is it just me?
At all.
Yeah, my wife says, she says to me, you know, Leticia said to me, this is what Maritza, my wife said, that men get menopause too. So I'm getting hot flashes right now, okay? No, shut that thing
Making
off.
money.
So, okay, everybody understands it. Now, check this out.
Menopause.
What are you doing to get to your, everybody has to pick a number in their mind and say, well, this is how much I need to retire. It changes from year to year. I'm going to retire him within 24 months with $2,500. I promise you, on the 25th month, he's going to say, Mike, you know, my needs have changed. I got all this free time, right? I need a little more because I got all this time on my hands and the car, and I'm putting more miles on the car, I'm spending more gas. 500 will go to 5 to 8. Right. Check this out. Check this out. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is the same thing I said there, just a little bit neater. I'm gonna take you right to the results. I already heard all this. What are the results? The results are this. We own a 6-bed facility that's securing our money from losses. We get about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. We use that to acquire the single-family homes that we use for rental income. Our goal is to acquire 15 to 20 single-family homes. This is what I'm gonna teach you guys to do on the side. You're getting $200 a month from these homes. Of course, this is over 10 years, so that you can retire. So see, now Chris doesn't need 20 of these. He only needs 12, 13 homes to retire. Our first and second property is gonna net us about, give or take, $40,000. It teaches us how to do the rehabs, how to find them, acquire them, resell them. There's a system to this. It's gonna sharpen your skills, stuff that you already know, and the stuff that you don't know is gonna teach you new stuff, like June is teaching me. It's gonna prepare us for our second year transactions, because we're gonna know, have you ever seen these people that put up these, like the McDonald's or specific Wendy's? They go in there and you go, man, that was fast. Right? It'd be us, we'd do like 4 years and we're still putting up the arch. But you know why they do it so fast? Because they do it over and over and over and over. So we're gonna go ahead and do this, and then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna start all over again in year 2, and we're gonna do this. Does everybody get it now? Yeah. We don't have to do 36 of those a year. Now, is it okay to say, yeah, you know what, sometimes we may stumble onto something, well, we'll just throw another property in there, take care of that problem. Is that right? So we'll do 4 or 5 projects, and we'll move on to year 2, and we double the numbers, prepare us for year 2. Guess what? It makes it possible for us not to have more capital calls. Who knows what a capital call is? Who does not know what a capital call is? Okay, this is a capital call. 4 of us get together and we do a project, and we each put $100,000, and all of a sudden, somebody, she's the accountant, she screwed up on the numbers. And she says, Mike, we got a problem. We need an additional $100,000. She's got to make these phone calls. They're called capital calls. Hey, Leslie, listen, I screwed up. My name is Jara. I screwed up. And we need another $25,000 from you. And then she calls Celso, and Leslie already called Celso, and he ain't answering because he knows what she wants, right? But he finally does text her back and say, okay, that's a capital call. No capital calls. No capital calls. Second year, we're going to grow that group portfolio. You're also going to get your personal portfolio with the owner finance contract for the property, which we're going to resell. It depends whether you're 5, 10,000, 250,000. There's some of us here that are doing the bigger projects. That's okay. If you got to start in the smaller projects, you do what you can. I just want you to, I don't care if you start at $1,000, but start somewhere. How many of you know that it's not about the $1,000? Some of you are with us and know. It's about getting you in the game.
All right, it's not you, it is hot in here.
I told you I wasn't having a hard time.
Okay, I admit I am.
Oh, you know what? Can you stand for a second, Paulette? Yeah. Can we? You know what? How many years?
I am going into my 25th year.
She's retiring when?
I thought it was yesterday, but seriously, they don't have my retirement orders yet, so they're telling me stick around until I get my retirement orders.
25 years. Alright, so now you get it. I just messed this up.
Are we doing something with the heat?
Okay. You get it? Now, let me share with you how we're gonna work a crowdfunding project into our system here. This is to help us, help our community, and get free money. Okay, we're gonna go out and we're gonna find a strip mall, right? And it's gonna have, I don't know, 10 units. Give me some ideas. I'm gonna give you my idea, then you're gonna give me your idea. I want to have a small hotel like this with 50 or 100 beds. And what I wanna do is I wanna take 90 days and just promote, I don't care who you are, you know my saying, whether you're from Yale or jail, right? And I want you to come into this facility for 90 days if you need to stay, if not. And I want you to let us teach you how to take care of your bank account. Some people don't know how to reconcile their account. Start your little business. Let's work on people's forte. What did you do for a living, Adrian? What did you do or do?
I retired from the post office.
From the post office, so we know he knows how to ride a bike, right? He knows how to take care of, you know, clerical stuff, and we find out what he's really good at. What are you really bad at? Wait a minute, wait a minute. What is he really bad at? See that? That's a wife. He's perfect. He's perfect.
Good everything I do.
Okay, you see, so we find out what his weakness is, and we stay away from the weakness. We find out what every one of your strengths are, and we work with your strengths. Okay? And then we go and get a unit out, 10 units, and what we want to do is, I'm going to use my example, 100 units. And we're going to take these folks and we're going to teach them everything they need to know about investing. Now, check this out. They're going to pay zero to learn. These are people that need our help. Is that okay? This is not just about us, right? And they're going to stay with us. And this is what's going to happen. For 4 to 5 hours, they're going to be taught every day, Monday through Friday. They can stay there, they can sleep there, they can eat there. As long as they abide by the rules, they can do this. And we're going to teach them everything that we know. We're going to, if somebody says to us, well, you know, I'm a landscaper, then we're going to help them set up his landscaping business. If they say I do computer website design, and somebody, it ain't going to be me, is going to teach them how to do it. But you get it. We're going to help them set up the business, the incorporation, the account. We're going to help them with their, William is going to help them with their credit. Scott is going to help them with their self-directed. And we're all going to help fund it. And, where's Amanda Palmer?
Yes.
Amanda Palmer, when I saw this, I was like, are you kidding me? Can I go on the internet here? Shane, I can go on the internet, right?
Yeah, it has Wi-Fi. Just connect.
I'll do this.
Tiene mala palabra.
I'm not going to do this.
Oh.
No.
Oh, I should have gone to
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo.com.
Should have a story there.
On the right-hand side.
No. She raised $1.2 million given to her by we the people.
In 90 days.
In 90 days.
Actually, she did it in 45 days.
I want you to meet June Hollister. And I am having a hot flash.
What's
This
that
is
jacket?
This is June. June's going to tell us she's teaching us, and I told her about what we're wanting to do, what I wanted to do with my group, and here she is.
How many know what crowdfunding is? How many has actually done a crowdfunding campaign? And what was the name of your campaign?
I did it like a week ago.
Oh, so you're in it right now.
I started it because I got to get a feeler for it, whether it works or not.
Okay, so you're just starting, you're not actually in the campaign, you're just starting to build?
I did it on Kickstarter and I
Oh,
pressed
Kickstarter,
submit,
okay.
and that's where it's at. I haven't even looked at it yet, so I'm worried about it.
Oh, you need my help. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna tell you what crowdfunding is. Now, everyone knows what a grant is, correct? Crowdfunding is similar to a grant. A grant, you go to one person or one corporation and you say, I need $10,000 for my project, for my schooling, for whatever. One person. That's really hard to do. And then you have to wait maybe 6 months before you even get an answer. Crowdfunding is where you go to many people. Okay, so you take the amount of money you're thinking, let's say you need $20,000 for a project. Don't go to one person, go to many. Get $5 from her, $20 from her, $100 from him, $200 from her. In 90 days, you will probably have more than $20,000. A lot of people raise money, they say, I only need 5, and they end up with 20. One man wanted to, he wanted to put a book out there, How to Draw Comics. He asked for $10,000. He raised $250,000 for his comic book. And this can be done, but there's a right way of doing it, and there's a wrong way of doing it. Now, if you don't follow all the rules and regulations, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you are going to raise 0. Now, there's 3 reasons why people will donate to your project. One is because they really have a lot of faith in your project or in your cause. A lot of faith. And they say, oh, that is such a great idea. I'm definitely going to donate $100 or $5 or even just $1. I love it. The second reason is because all your friends and family know. They just want to support you. But I mean, how many of those do we have? The third and most popular reason that people donate is because of your rewards. If you donate to my project, I'm going to give you a reward for doing that. Now, I show you how to give rewards. It costs nothing out of your pocket. So that if you give me $10, I can give you something that is of value to you. It costs me nothing. Nothing at all. So I'm getting 100% profit there. I also show you where you can buy rewards for $3 and it's worth $40 to you. So you give me $20 donation, I'm going to give you a $40 reward. So of course people go, I do it all the time. I'm always saying, oh my God, look at that, this is great. Oh, what does he do by the way? I don't really care. I want that reward. And I give him that donation. He probably picked the reward up for $3, but I don't care. I know for a fact that I can't get it anywhere for under $40, so he's getting $20 out of me. And I show you where to get that. Now, here's the thing. If you want to set up business of selling ice cubes to Eskimos, I can show you how to do that.
Color ice cubes.
Yeah, color ice cubes. But I can show you how to do that. Now, it all depends on how good or bad your campaign is. You're not going to cheat anybody. Trust me, you are not cheating anyone. You're going to give them the value of their donation. And like I say, if somebody is going to sell, or not sell to me, is going to give me a reward, I will say 128 gigabyte flash drive, and I only have to make a donation of $10. And what's he doing? he's gonna make ice cubes for the Eskimos. I don't care what he's doing. Do what you need to do, you're getting my money. So you understand? Doesn't matter what you're raising the money for. You can raise the money, hey, you had an accident, your roof just fell in. You need money for that. I can show you how to get money for that. You want to invest in a project. I can show you how to raise money for that.
We have 10 units here, example. She's the expert at this. She will make us go viral, okay? Now, you got all your expenses, you're gonna say, I need equipment, right? And I need a rental place, and I need whatever you need, computers and whatever you need, and I need $50,000, right? And I need 100, but I need to raise another 50. That way they know you got a little skin in the game, right? And one of the things you need is a rental place, which Corporation XYZ is going to rent to you. So we put a contract on this $500,000 property that has 10 units. Like she said, we're not going to cheat anybody. We're going to do what we promise we're going to do, we will do. If you don't, they have a reservation for you at Club Fed. Okay? Now, so remember, it's about group investing. Well, some of you raise a little bit more, some of you will raise a little less. This is free money. This one's got almost $50,000. 1,000 people have, wow. Just to do what, a record? I can sing, don't even sing. So you raise whatever, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, and yes, you do. You have a contract right here to rent this place from this corporation, who's us. Is that legal? Yes, you can rent from whoever you want, but you find a cause. My cause is, I want to do a book, I want to sell it to promote what we do here. Is this good stuff that we teach people how to do?
Yes.
So do you think that the world can benefit from it?
Yeah.
If we could get the attention of 1% of the people around us, and we're teaching people, you know what, my son, 19 years old, you know, he says, I'm retiring in 7 to 10 years. He's 19 years old, he refuses to go to college. He says, well, I don't want to go to college now, I'm going to do what you do. You know what? I don't blame him. But we take that money, and every one of us has a project, we do it in our project, whatever your project is. You want to help veterans? You want to help homeless? You want to help, or you want to do whatever. You want to write a book? If you don't know this, this is really good. You want to remember this. You can write a book that says how to travel the world on a 40-hour paycheck. You write the book, and what you do is you have a little bit of money put away, you do your campaign, and then you raise money, and you go and you travel the world. What you do is you go from state to state, and you write down the places you went. You're going to publish this book. Yeah, first of all, everything that you spend is tax-free. The lodging, the travel, the food, the clothing, everything. You're going to teach people how to do this. That could be your project, or you could do, I mean, she could give you a million ideas. But at the end of the day, we do the project, but we raise the money, and we got a piece of property, part of our year 2. Does everybody see that? Some of you need to do crowdfunding to get a Kickstarter, but we're doing an Indiegogo, not a Kickstarter.
Excuse me, can I ask you, why did you choose Kickstarter?
Somehow I got an email advertisement from that. So I clicked on it, bored, really late at night, working at the hotel. And next thing you know, I'm like putting these ideas in my head, and I wanted to do something with automotive and some sort of an engineering level on hydrogen, fuel-powered cars and stuff like that, so I set it up.
Everybody that has heard just a little bit of what she can do for us, she is my instructor. Everybody gets to talk, right? She's now my new mentor. if you knew you could raise, let's just say $20,000, let's say $10,000, how many of you would do this? Now check this out. How many of you would do this? If I put up my hotel on Monday, say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody been to, who has not been to the Pier Hotel? Then you've got to go. But if I put up the hotel, say Monday, say 4 o'clock, you call in sick on Tuesday, no, I'm sorry. And so what we do is we have dinner, I'll have the chef prepare dinner for us, a couple of things. And what we want to do is we do some preliminary things that she'll tell us we need to have, like everybody's got to have their own laptop. And we're going to do a boot camp Monday and all day Tuesday. We'll start at say 9 o'clock after breakfast or 9:30 after breakfast. Then we'll go through about 1 o'clock, have a quick soup salad lunch, and then go all the way to about 5 and have a 6 o'clock dinner. And then we go, our last session will be like from 7 to 9, but by 9 o'clock, with the help of a few people, like Shane, which obviously does, and Devalia's wife, who does websites, we would have a campaign ready to launch. Is that possible?
Yes.
In 2 days, and then we all get to launch the same time, using our own ideas with the rewards and the gifts that we're going to give out, and we would just basically eat, sleep, stay there until we launch. How many of you would be willing to put up $1,000 for that? We have to pay her. I'm free, but she's not. I'm easy, but she's not cheap. Okay? And she, you know what? She does this for everybody, $2,500 per person. Now check this out. Check this out. The $1,000 that you would spend, we'll put it in a project. I will make sure that everybody gets a benefit for their money if they don't raise at least that much money back. Is that okay? I'm going to guarantee you guys are going to get your money back. And you know what? From what I've seen, I don't think I'm going to have to take care of you guys like that. Now check this out. You're going to stay at the hotel. You're going to eat at the hotel. Dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay? No expenses. We have to take care of her. We have to take care of our technical people. I think I'm going to do it. I don't even need the money. But you know what? I'm excited about. I like new things. I personally think I'm going to raise $50,000 to $100,000. That's just me. I think big. I'm sorry. So I want everybody to commit. Now, granted, you're missing a day of work. You're going to call in sick on Tuesday. You're going to get to, after 9 o'clock, you get to go and see the city and all that, enjoy yourself. And you could do you and a friend or a spouse or a partner or whatever, it doesn't matter. Not each, but together. And you could join up, 2 people, 3 people. It doesn't have to be per person. It could be a group of people. It could be, you know what I'm saying? It could be 3 or 4 of you. I don't care. I just want to be able to do about 10 or 15 of us and see if we launch, get the ideas, see what we can do for us and the community at the same time. Does that sound great? Or does that sound crazy? Because you know, I think different.
A little bit of both.
What about, one guy said to me, Mike, I want to be able to provide, listen to this, the undergarments for the people at ALS. Do you know how difficult it is for some of them just to get that? He said, Mike, whatever I raise, I want to buy truckloads of it and give it. Just go to these ALS and give it to these elderly people that need it. Because it's not about us. You want to add anything?
One of the most important things with crowdfunding is, and this is so important, when you choose your topic, this is the first thing you need to do, is think of your topic, your cause, your project, whatever it is that you want to fundraise for, okay? Make sure that not only does it benefit you, but it will benefit others. And then for sure, you'll have a few things going for you. The idea that everybody likes your project, so they want to donate for that. But then because of your great rewards. So now you got 2 things going for you. Do not focus on just yourself. Don't do that. Make sure that whatever it is you do, for instance, his book. Yes, he's gonna benefit from his book. After he gets his book out there, he's probably gonna make millions on it. But guess what? What's inside of his book is going to benefit everyone else. So you see, two things going for him. Okay, the rewards, of course, his rewards are going to be good because, well, you gave me a few rewards. I checked it out, which was great. I gave you some rewards, and I'm gonna show you how to check for rewards. But I'm saying, this is not a hard project, but it's a project that you have to work at. You know what I'm saying? I don't know exactly how to say this. It's hard, but it's not, okay? Once you know what you're doing, it's easy. If you're gonna stumble around and say, oh, I just saw this, I'm gonna try it. No, you're gonna fail. You're definitely going to fail.
Look at an example.
You're going to fail. I'm so sorry.
I wasn't.
You're going to fail. But if you,
I didn't put my time, love, and
I'm so
care
sorry.
to it.
You need benefits. You need the irresistible.
Knowledge, what are we teaching here? Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
She's got, do you know why I've sat 4 or 5 weeks with her? Because she knows it, I don't. That's why, and it will work. Chris, you got a question?
Yeah, I actually have a question about something you mentioned. You said asked him why do you pick Kickstarter? What's the difference between this and that? And
Kickstarter, if he doesn't raise the money, say he asked for $10,000, you know, that's his goal, $10,000.
Yeah.
And he makes $999.
I'm donating that extra dollar. You know?
You're donating it?
He gets nothing, you get nothing.
Yeah.
Kickstarter does not allow you to keep any of the money unless you reach your goal. With Indiegogo, if you ask for 10,000 and you only make 4, you get to keep that 4.
I'm okay with that.
But you must give your rewards. If you offer to give a flash drive for $20 donation, you make sure that that goes out no matter what.
So
You give your rewards. You don't cheat anybody out of their rewards for donating the money.
So if you can't if you can't complete the project,
You just don't do the project,
You just
but
don't
you
do
get
it.
to keep the money, but you give the rewards to the people that donated to you. So in other words, it costs you $1,000, you've made $3,000 profit, you put it in your pocket, you go back out to Indiegogo again, and you say, I'm gonna try this again, because I know what I did wrong. Now I'm gonna do it again. I got $3,000, now I can invest in the same project.
alright, now here's the question then. Sometimes I've seen projects that we make on Kickstarter where the reward is what they're actually doing. So this is to make a game, then you get the game. If you could, obviously, that's the reward. If you could complete the project because you didn't get the reward, you still out. Are you in trouble now because you can't produce what you promised?
No, you get the reward, or you get the money back.
Okay.
Like I said, you never cheat anyone. Absolutely. You don't keep something that you don't come through with. And you make sure that you say that there. If I do not reach my goal, if I cannot make my project, your donation will be returned to you. So now they feel safe. They'll trust you. You know, I'm either going to get the reward or I'm going to get my money back. Either way.
I have a
So
question.
you're all set.
Can they do this? Can they do half of the money and then half of the money after they do the
Absolutely. You can make your project into 3 different projects. I can.
No, I mean,
Oh.
pay the $1,000. Can they pay us 500?
Absolutely.
500?
Absolutely.
We just want to give you another tool. What about if you were so creative, if we did a group, once we do the little ones for $10,000, $20,000, and then we got really creative and we had a workshop and we worked one where we could raise, there's some people that raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to do an ALF, that we would donate half of the, hello, we can do whatever we want.
Can I just talk about a little business that
Sure.
this was in Australia. She had an apartment, and she wanted to start a business, and she didn't really need this apartment. She moved in with her mom. She couldn't afford the apartment
was the
anymore,
name
so
of it?
she started a little business. What she did was she turned her apartment into, technically, a motel room. And she rented it out like a motel room. One for one, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. But she needed $10,000 to turn this apartment into like a condo, a vacation condo. she only needed 10,000, she ended up with 20,000. 6 months, somebody rented her condo, 6 months, I think it was for $9,000 for 6 months. I think one day, for one day, I think it was $100. For a weekend, it was $250. I paid $250 for one night. This place was gorgeous. I mean, 2 bedrooms, just immaculate. But she needed the money to put into it, which she did. But it was a business that she started. The only thing you have to worry about, which I don't teach any of this, is you have to share it with Uncle Sam. And if you still have it, it's an income.
That's your
So
other
you
part.
have to pay Uncle Sam. And I don't teach out any of that. I just tell you, you're going to pay on that money regardless. But
This is June. You guys, we can set up a date, review it. It'll give you a kickstart. It'll give you a jump start. And you know what? You get the experience, and before you know, you're doing a big, big project. Look at this. Smartphone breathalyzer at $121,000. But I found a smartphone breathalyzer.
it's not my girlfriend, it's my actual business, but you can contact me.
Somebody raised $121,000 for that. Come on, some of you are really creative. And I think it would work. We're gonna set aside in May, the 5th, I think it's the 5th. Am I right? It said Monday?
Sunday. That's
Monday,
Sunday.
Tuesday.
Sunday says the 6th and the 7th.
Go date Micah.
Six and 7, to do this.
Can we do it on another day since she wants to be in it and she'll be out of town?
What day?
What
The
day?
day, like the week after or something?
Yeah. Is that Mother's Day weekend?
It has to be on a Monday or Tuesday, because I get less crowds and I can block the hotel out. Those are my 2 slowest days. And when we get about, and we're gonna take over, we're basically gonna take over the veranda, the kitchen, the dining area. We're gonna take everything and just kind of it'll be kind of like our what? June?
Mother's Day is usually the second Sunday.
You know what, why don't we just do
Yeah.
The 6th and the 7th.
Yeah.
do two different days? Well, see, I'm available. I don't know if June is.
I'm available.
Okay.
What about
then-
13th?
No comment.
So we'll do one in the 6th and 7th,
And another one in June.
Yeah, that's fine.
and then the other one would be on the 3rd and the 4th.
June?